Hello, hello, hello. Okay, microphone is on. What's going on, Phil? What's going on, Fallen? How are you guys doing this Friday morning here in not so sunny Southern California? It's overcasted outside right now, and it was kind of raining. So like the last, I've been trying to get my car washed the last 3 weekends, and it's been raining or super windy. And since I live out in a desert area here in Southern California, the there's just dust everywhere. So it's like, yeah, my car is just getting dirty. Like it just not getting cleaned. So yeah. So in this stream, we're going to be looking into Daggerheart. So Daggerheart, for those that may not be connected to the internet for whatever reason, but Daggerheart is Critical Role slash Darrington Press's upcoming fantasy TTRPG. This one has been cooked up for a while. It is now in open beta. So we are just in the testing phase. It's meant to, after it goes through this testing phase, it's meant to be released next year. This is getting a lot of hype around it, especially after the OGL debacle of this last year. So Daggerheart, amongst other fantasy TTRPGs, they're trying to say they're not direct competitors to 5e, D&D 5e, Dungeons and Dragons specifically, but it's a fantasy TTRPG. It is a direct competitor to Dungeons and Dragons. This, along with MCDM's fantasy TTRPG, are the two big ones that people are really paying attention to because of how much pull and how pretty much how much influence both publishing, publishing and entertainment machines that MCDM and Critical Role are. So it's from what we've seen from MCDM, because I believe they went into closed testing and they've sort of started leaking out their testing for their system that still, I don't believe it has a name yet. It's just the MCDM RPG. We also have Daggerheart, which is now in open testing, open beta. And we're seeing that we are very, very split on the kind of game people are going towards. So 5e kind of, for me personally, sits somewhere in the middle where it's trying to be this very kitchen sink. We're trying to allow you to play as much things as you want, but not being very good at any of those things. It's just an average. It's pretty much it's trying to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. And that's where 5e kind of sits. You can play very narrative, or you can play very much in a wargaming like setup. The fact that 5e is so modular, people have obviously in the third party scene, in the homebrew scene, have very much adapted the game, at least 5e, to fit whatever they need at the table. Phil, for example, a designer who is creating actual systems to help support things that WotC isn't actually doing for their game, like a vehicle system, a war system. So definitely go check out Phil's work. Going on, Ghost Fox? So where Daggerheart sits on a more narrative side of this kind of spectrum of like war game versus narrative in terms of like fantasy TTRPGs. If our point of reference, since this is a D&D, it's not so much a D&D channel anymore, it's a 5e channel. If 5e is our frame of reference, 5e is sitting at the center of like trying to allow you to do a little bit of everything, with the left side being narrative driven, while right side being more wargaming. This is very much on the narrative left side. Daggerheart is very much a more narrative game. And I would say on the right side, you'd get something like Pathfinder, which is very much more a wargaming system. It doesn't mean you can't RP and you can actually have combat in any of those. It's very apparent that in Daggerheart, there's still a combat system input in there, but it's more about the narrative of combat. It's not so much the nitty gritty and the fine tuning of every little option that you have that you get in 5e, and especially you get something like in Pathfinder, second edition. So with this stream, we're not going to go into the heavy rules or really dive into how Daggerheart is played. The playtest material, it's 400 pages. I don't got time for that. I don't got time to read all of it. To be honest, it is a heavy, chunky, piece of material to actually go through. What I want to do is go through the character options to see what's the level of a character expression the player like that a player can put into the system. What are we allowed to build? Because for me, that is kind of a much since this channel started very much as a character build channel at first, and now we're just getting more and experimenting more into creating 5e content that allows you to express your characters more. That is not included in the base system. I want to see how Daggerheart allows us to create characters that we want to create, and if it is a wide enough system that allows us to do that, and how much of it is going to be supported mechanically versus how much of it is going to be on the player to put those ideas narratively. We kind of see those things in 5e. Also, while there's I think based off of like early things I've seen for Daggerheart, it is lighter in terms of mechanics and what you can actually do compared to 5e. And I believe it does kind of lean a little bit more into a player needing to flavor it up in a very in the same vein, I guess, for 5e, like the Artificer. You have spells, but you don't really have a lot of magic items that you're crafting, so it's on the player to narratively explain like how their spells work. So that's kind of like where I'm seeing Daggerheart shifting and being much more that way. I will openly say this game is not going to be for everybody. If you're wanting a more wargaming experience, I don't think Daggerheart is going to be that for you based off of what I've seen. If you guys want an example of like Daggerheart being played or how the actual rules work, Critical Role rolled out several videos on character creation, the actual game rules, as well as a live stream where they played the game so you can actually see for yourself. I would recommend actually watching it because I personally, if you're like me, do not learn how to play games by watching by reading the material and try to like grasp it. I'm very much a visual learner and an active learner. I need to watch somebody do it, and I need to actively do it myself at the same time so that I get an idea of what I'm supposed to be doing. I learn faster that way. That's how I learned 5e. I didn't read any of the books. It was more so watching and playing, and as we went, I figured out how to play the game. So, with that said, let's kind of just really dive into these character options. We're going to start with the classes because there's some omissions of what is considered quote unquote traditional fantasy, and they're going with some interesting, I think, directions compared to what you would see out of something like Pathfinder or even 5e. So we'll start off. Bard is Bard. They are your typical. It's what you expect from Bard. It's very typical. You have magical music, magical arts that you're using to craft and weave spells and support your allies. One thing to note for all of the classes, they have domains, and we'll get into domains and what they mean in a bit. But domains themselves are these two identities where you can pull your features, your abilities from. So each class is going to be a combination of those two. For Bard, it's Grace and Codex. And then you have a bunch of starting stats, which we will get to when we actually make a character. They have several class feature, like one main class feature, which is pretty much going to be your equivalent to like your base first or second level feature in a 5e character. But they're only getting one. A thing to note is that Daggerheart's level progression is from 1 to 10. It's not 1 to 20, it's just 1 to 10, so it's a lot more concise. It's more compact. They want this game to be able to support long form campaigns, but also I don't think in terms of like their campaign lengths, that means like a 2+ year campaign that you can kind of get with a 5e game if you play like the base modules, or even then if your homebrew games, like there's just very much those level 1 to 20s can take 2 years at times. And this, I think, from the levels 1 to 10, you could possibly play, you know, play that in a whole year or maybe half the year, and then you could jump on to play new characters. I generally like that because I like to create new characters and like generate new ideas, and that's one of the problems I've had with in general 5e progression for characters. If you kind of just either follow XP or especially milestone, and then you're just following either base modules and so on. I've yet, for as long as I've played 5e, I have yet to actually play a level 20 character. So yeah, so it's nice to see this change. So yeah, this is the Bard. They have a ability called Rally. At the beginning of a session, place a d6 on your character sheet with the lowest number facing up. When anyone in your party rolls with fear, turn the Rally die to increase its value by 1. When you would increase the value above 6, remove the die, describe how you rally the party, and give every character who listens a d6 Rally die. They can spend this die to roll and add the result to any action roll, reaction roll, or damage roll. If your Rally die hasn't finished with this countdown by the end of the session, distribute the current value shown on the die as a hope amongst your party, splitting it in any way you choose, and remove the die. And the die size increases by d8 at level 5. Okay, so a quick little thing to kind of explain what the heck I just read. The game functions on a 2d12 system for players. One die representing hope, one representing fear. You roll those two together to get your result. I believe adding them and then plus any modifiers, whichever of the hope or fear die is higher, though, determines pretty much what sort of token is distributed. So if your hope die has a higher value than your fear die, you receive a hope token, which you can use for other actions in the game. And then if your fear die is higher than your hope, the DM gets a fear token, which they themselves can use to spend and modify actions of the game. This is kind of something similar to Cypher System, where they have DM intrusions. That's what the fear die reminds me of. The DM could spend the fear to do something to modify actions and events that are happening in the game. So that's pretty much what this ability is. It is a very slowed down bardic inspiration in a way. That's what it really feels like. And it's, for me, it's always funny when they have these like rally bolstering mechanics on a bard, and I get what they're attempting to achieve with it, but it also feels very commandery. Very Marshall-esque that it would fit under too. And it's something it's kind of, for 5e2 is the same thing. So Bard's interesting. We'll get into like domains and their kind of stuff you can pick. And as soon as we get to domains, next is Druid. So I'm interested to see what they do with Druid, because I don't. Okay, they do have a beast. Okay, they have beast form. You could turn into animal. Like I get the fantasy behind it, and I get the fantasy like to be more of a like a hedge mage, sort of Witch of the Wilds also. Josh deserves a level 1 to 20 campaign. I think my play group will get there. A little side note, since the Vecna campaign is coming out and it ties into the Rod of 7 parts, our play group during our Storm King's Thunder campaign was already collecting the Rod of 7 parts. So I think now to kind of wrap those characters up, which are sitting around level 14, 15 right now, after we finish Tomb of Annihilation, I think we're just going to jump into Vecna and kind of wrap these characters up and get them to 20. I'll bring back my Artificer for that. I personally created a Artificer subclass for my character because the ones that WotC has out don't fit the character. So if my DM allows me, I'm probably going to play that. Okay. Anyway, back to this. So Druid is kind of what we expect. They're Sage and Arcana domains. They have some class items, a small bag of rocks and bone, or a strange pendant found in the dirt. So they get 2 main class abilities, which is wild. One is Wild Touch, which sounds like Druidcraft. You can perform a harmless, subtle effect that involves nature that involves nature at will. So yeah, it's druidcraft. And then beast form is watch it. And you mark a stress. So I'm assuming stress is their, it's kind of like a resource system for players. You mark levels of stress, and then you to do cool stuff. So you mark, and then like if you want to cast spells, I think you mark stress. You want to do like cool ass maneuvers, you mark stress. I think that's kind of like the system that they're going with, which is interesting. It's very very simple. Everybody gets to do stuff, and you don't really have to like create a whole magic system and a whole maneuver system and stuff for, especially since the game is very leaning very narrative. I think for a more war gamey experience, you do want separate magic systems and like maneuver or action systems for marshals and stuff. But for a more narrative driven game where you kind of need to keep everybody a little bit more streamlined, so you can just kind of run the story and create a story, I can see a base resource system to mark that your character is doing a magical or a tactical actions. Pretty neat. So you mark a stress to transform into a magical creature equal to your level or lower from the available options. You lose the use of your abilities, weapons, armor. Okay, so it's just wild shape, but it scales to your character's level. I hope you have options there in front of you. The cool thing is like at least in a physical form there are actual cards. So I'm hoping that they do release cards of like the creatures and stuff. So that a druid can be like, okay, I'm gonna transform into any of these things. That'd be neat. I always go back and forth on like what a wild shape or like shape shifting druid or shape shifting class could have, and like what options that should be made available, because I don't think 5e in general is handling it correctly, and I see Daggerheart kind of following in the same vein where you have all these options available to you, but like they're not in your main resources. They're going to be elsewhere instead of whatever's are going to be available made to you immediately on your sheet. There's pros and cons to it. I think there is a proper system you can have with this that allows you to do it. It might not be a heavy load though, considering that the game appears to be running running lighter. All right, next we got Guardian. So Guardian looks to be kind of our tanky class. This is going to be like your main frontliner that is meant to take the hits. Noticeably, actually, let's go back. Some things that are missing I want to just highlight and point out. There's no barbarian, right? There's no barbarian here. You have warrior and guardian as your two main sort of martial classes, and there's no paladin. So instead, we have Seraph with, I'm assuming he's going to be the cleric and the paladin kind of like put together, which makes a lot of sense. Your holy warrior characters. So if you want to be more, I'm hoping, I haven't really looked into this too much. I'm hoping there is like some sort of like white mage, quote unquote, option, and then there is the holy warrior that are all under Seraph. Well, guardian and warrior, I'm assuming guardian's going to be your heavily armored tanky character, which is cool, I guess. I'm hoping that there's still the option to be the barbarian, where you are like you don't have any armor, you just tank hits. And then I'm hoping also you get under the warrior if you just want to be a monk, because a monk is not on here either. So that if you want to be a monk, your standard martial fighter where you just use your master of like a specific weapon, you can do that here. Or even if you just want to be a naked, shirtless, heavy great axe wielding barbarian, you can do that under warrior also. Yeah, it seems like casters kind of get a little bit more options here, because you do see sorcerer and you see wizard, and considering martials get pared down to their character expression and under like two main options, and then you still have like a cleric version of it. You have the sorcerer, and then you have the wizard. You don't have a warlock, right? But it's like the only thing difference between sorcerer and wizard, they are arcane casters, but in reality, it's like okay, I am magic and I study magic. It would have made honestly, it would have been pretty cool if they would have just said mage, and you have like a. Actually, this is what I probably would have seen. Get rid of wizard sorcerer since you already don't have warlock, have mage, and then have options in background and stuff that kind of dictate where your magic comes from, and then you have inventor because that is another archetype I do not see that is in here whatsoever. Since you're already paring down guardian and warrior from like quote unquote yeah, you're already paring down the martial frontliners into warrior and guardian, which is removing monk, barbarian, and pretty much paladin. Um, you can kind of get rid of sorcerer and wizard, just say mage, and kind of do that, and then have an enter, which would add another not seen option here. Yeah, it seems that the barbarian will be a warrior. I'm still curious how magic is being handled. I've seen very little on how it's being handled. I would recommend if you have the time, because I think it's like a 2 to 3 hour live stream that they did. Watch the live stream. The live stream, they get into combat fairly well after they introduce their goofy characters. The funny part is all these characters are like, you could tell they weren't trying to build like super serious characters. They were just trying to build characters that were having fun. That reminded me of how my play group has been building characters lately. So yeah, they had a bug fairy person, a kind of very floaty magical mushroom girl that's a rogue. Um, they also, what did they have? They had a giant from the Underdark that wore a pseudo armor made of jeans, made of denim. I think magic's gonna be I cast a spell and you just roll to see what happens. When we get into domains, we'll look at and see what that actually entails. I believe it's not so much as simple as like I say I do something and there's no spending or exchange of I guess resources. That's what I'm saying. Hey, thank you, Chris. Yeah. So I think with anything, like even in martial options and magic, whenever you want to do something, you do have to expend a resource. There's still some level of resources here because they still want to appeal and kind of take from the ideas of D&D in general, which makes a lot of sense. A little tangent before we finish looking at the rest of the characters. It's just Daggerheart. I've seen there's a lot of conversation on Twitter, which is good and bad, mostly bad. A lot of bad faith comments being made on Daggerheart over on Twitter. But Daggerheart is very much aiming to look at the Critical Role fan base and those that want to have more story-driven fantasy games, while still having a touch of some mechanical weight, to still feel like they're doing things. Whether that's going to be successful or not, it's in beta, so it's still too early to tell. It's just play it, test it. I know my play group's we're gonna try it out a little bit just to see how it is. Bad faith. The bad faith stuff that people are saying, they are really telling on themselves. Like they are ratting themselves out, and the stuff that they're saying about Daggerheart. They're getting mad because there's no rules to keep people in line to have them behave when they play the game. There's that. That is the big one. It's like, no, you just, be an adult. If somebody's being an asshole at your table, you kick them out your table. Like that's all you do. You kick them out, or you have conversations and asking XYZ, hey, your behavior is not being appropriate. We want you to have fun, but you're also limiting our capacity to have fun. You have those conversations. I think there's a lot of like, 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 I think there's a lot Twitter finger actions going on there to just say some like really hot take bullshit to just to trend in the algorithm. There's a lot of that, and just purposely misinterpreting what the intention is on the table. It is not wrong for Daggerheart to assume that your table is going to function like normal adults or people that want to actually sit at the table with each other and play a game and enjoy it. And it's not on a system to pretty much hold your hand for you to be a good acting person, a good person with some moral direction that you're not, that still allows you to have fun, but also not disrupt the fun of other people at the table. I think there's some stuff that's like leads back to early 5e and like how to dictate all that stuff, that it was very, very terrible advice, and now we're just getting even worse advice. That was the one argument I've seen that I was like, it's not on the system to not have people at your table be assholes. That is your table to discuss that and have people not be assholes. The second one is people getting upset that this isn't 5e or the 5e killer or some very heavy narrative or a very heavy mechanical resource dependent game that is 5e or Pathfinder adjacent. And they're using their dislike for more narrative driven games to say that the design is bad, which isn't necessarily the case. So, and that's the thing. It's like, no, this is a narrative driven game. It's not meant to be your D&D stand-in. Like pretty much your 1-for-1 equivalent to D&D, to 5e, to Pathfinder. It is very apparent that Critical Role wanted to go in this direction, and it fits with their playstyle, and it fits with how they operate and play as a play group, but also the directions and stuff that their community, that obviously this is going to be served up to, because that's the thing. There's people that watch Critical Role that don't play D&D. They just watch Critical Role. This might be the game that gets them into TTRPGs, right? A more narrative-driven game that has some aspects of D&D-esque and other fantasy, like, war game things, but it's still very much a narrative-driven game. So, and that's fine. Not every TTRPG from any of, like, these big creators are going to be your thing, and that's fine. But to say that this game is shit because it is not your preference is bad faith. That's just straight up, and that's a lot of that's going on. Or the last one I've seen, and it's really, really stupid. They're using and keeps they have a general dislike for Critical Role, and they keep saying that this game is made for actual plays and designed for actual play. And it's like, and they use that every opportunity to kind of just shove that, oh, this is an actual play RPG. It's a game, my guy. Like, you don't gotta tweet everything. If you just don't like Critical Role, don't block them on your feed, man. Go outside, touch some grass. It's okay. Like, it's straight up, it's okay. Yeah, it's weird. It sounds like they expected a built-in social contract. I'm not on X, so I don't know a lot about the bad faith. Yeah, I'm super close to just deleting my Twitter just because of the TTRPG space being hyper volatile for anything, and it's frustrating. That's why I don't tweet really or active there. I'm active in my Discord. Like, if you guys want to come and hang out and talk there, I am there, willing to talk about stuff there. But yeah, I'm like super close to deactivating my Twitter just because of how people in the TTRPG space and the YouTube D&D space act on there. And it is hyper frustrating where there's already barriers to entry for people that are in pretty much minority groups to break into that scene in the first place. So yeah, I'm loving the two D12 systems, and I feel a solid way to measure scale of success and failure. Yeah, that's one of the things too I saw with how Daggerheart is. The 2 D12 system is very, very interesting. It is the hope and fear situation. A lot of the stuff, it seems it will be very automated when you play it in a digital space, which is good. In person, I see the intent now with if you have a automated version on in the digital space, I see the intent of having physical things like cards and tokens and stuff to help fill the gap that a digital tracker would actually have for a lot of this stuff. It's sick. My group just jumped into Pathfinder since we were having problems with 5e, and WotC also announced they won't have D&D, MTG, and Portuguese anymore. Yeah, WotC shooting themselves in the foot. They're stupid for not supporting Portuguese, which Brazil is one of their biggest like MTG, and like I think it started getting a really big D&D following there, but it was like one of the big MTG like areas. Like there's pros that are coming out of there that are winning world championships and stuff out of Brazil for at least back in the day, and they're just like, oh, we're just not going to support anymore. So dumb. But yeah, I'm glad you're having fun with Pathfinder. My group realized Pathfinder just isn't for us, but I don't think it's a bad game. It's just not the game that we want. Like we need to play that fits our play style. We don't like feeling like we're getting punished by the system because we're being dumbasses at the table. Like and that's why Pathfinder's like if we want to just play like a straight up war game, yeah. But my play group doesn't play optimally, like at all. So, all right, off the sidetrack. Okay, so let's jump into Guardian. This is our kind of stand-in for. This is our tank class, really. They have Valor and Blade domains. The feature they have Unstoppable. Once per long rest, you can become unstoppable. Your unstoppable die begins as a D4. Place it on your character sheet in a designated section of your class features, starting with the die's highest value facing up. While unstoppable, you gain resistance to physical damage. Add any additional D6 to any damage rolls you make. Can spend stress to reroll any single die you rolled. So you're just a stronger. you're tougher. So you do more damage and you can tank some hits. Cool. You can spend stress to roll any single die you've rolled. Okay. Anytime you roll your damage dice, reduce the unstoppable die value by 1 when you would receive the value below 1 or the scene end. Remove it and drop out of unstoppable. At third level, upgrade your unstoppable die to D6. At level 7, upgrade it to D8. So anytime you roll your damage dice, reduce. Oh, okay. So every time you add that D6 to your damage rolls, you lower it. So pretty much for 4 turns, every long rest, you have all these attributes active on you, and then once you lose it, not until another long rest, you can bring it back up. Okay, that's pretty. Okay, I like that mechanic. I'm not gonna lie. I like that mechanic. It's interesting, and it. So one of the things that this does, and I'm seeing how like I'm putting my designer hat on. They have the die there, and we've seen it out with 2 classes that they have the die there as a tracker for you without letting you realize that's your tracker. So that's why like you're gonna keep pulling the die down until you go to 0. Once you're at 0, boom, you don't have these abilities anymore. So for me, this kind of incentivizes like a fast play. At least in the early levels, you want to get stuff done, like fights done like fast, else you're going to be knocked out of this stuff. Yeah, yeah, and that's the cool thing too. So and the thing is, anytime you roll your damage dice, so the unstoppable value only goes down when you're in combat. So if you're not in combat and you can spend a stress to roll any single die you rolled while you're out of combat, you could unless I'm assuming the high level of stress kills you or like does stuff to you. But this is a nice mechanic. I like that. Yeah, I don't think when my group plays Daggerheart, I'm going to be playing. I'm probably going to be DMing it. They have a starter adventure, so I'm just going to run that for them. But yeah, it's just if I were to play Guardian already, I was like, yeah, that looks pretty sick. I probably want to run that. I like frontliners, man. Like just can't take the tank out of the boy. You start taking damage when you max out on stress. Oh, okay. Okay, so Ranger. Let me see what they do. Now that I've seen Ranger, they have a pet, so I'm assuming this is gonna be the pet class. Just gotta Ranger's focus. You spend hope and make an attack with your weapon. On a success, you temporarily have focus on the target along with doing damage from the attack. While focused, you know precisely what direction they are in. All damage rolls you make against them add a d6. On a miss attack you make against them, you may end Ranger's focus to roll your duality die and take the new result. Ooh, okay, so this is Hunter's Mark as a class feature. That is sick. That it is not basic D&D. So okay, they did the thing that Wizards is not doing for Ranger. I don't mind that. Excuse me. This is Hunter's Mark, and that I'm perfectly fine. It is iconic to the Ranger. Like it's sick. Like it's pretty much their version of Hunter's Mark, which is Ranger's focus, and that is perfectly fine. It's kind of what you expect to be doing. You mark your target. You spend a hope. Yeah, that's sick. Okay. See, now we were seeing how they have to spend resources here. Let me see. Let's go back to Guardian. Wait, does the unstoppable die do anything, or they just teach us how to spend resources? The unstoppable die is pretty much doesn't do anything. It is a pretty much it is a countdown timer for you. It is a countdown timer whenever you pretty much, I guess, spend a point of unstoppable is the best way to say it, to do an extra d6 damage on your damage roll. So I can just have a stack of M&Ms. Technically, yeah, you can have a stack of M&Ms. You can stack like D4. You have 4 M&Ms there, and then when you hit level 3, you get 6 M&Ms, and then at level 7, you get 8 M&Ms. And then pretty much whenever you want to add an extra d6 of damage, you eat an M&M. But while you have M&Ms, you also gain a resistance to physical damage, and then you can spend a stress to reroll a single die you've rolled. Yeah, I think my feedback now, Phil, is for this playtest, I'm just gonna say replace all like these dies right here that keep track of your resource as M&Ms. I'm just gonna tell them that now, and I'll give you credit for it. And like my friend Phil told me to replace all these resource countdown die as M&Ms. That's it. They could team up with Mars and do a Daggerheart M&M collab. Damn. But yeah, that's. I like the idea. Sponsor, yeah. What I like about the Guardian thing is that you have this kind of like counting down resource that as long as you have it active, you have all these like passives on. So yeah, like that. Ranger's pretty cool. You pretty much have Hunter's Mark as a base. So let's go check out the Rogue. And then, Daryl, I saw you. What the F is a Seraph? We'll go into the Seraph in a bit. Seraph looks like to be their cleric / paladin stand-in. It is pretty much their holy warrior class. So I want to see how they kind of differentiate it, since we're no longer having a cleric or a paladin. We have a Seraph. All right. So the Rogue, on the other hand, is Midnight and Grace domains. They have the Hide class feature. When you move into a location where there are no enemies that can see you, you're hidden. You're unable to be directly targeted by attacks, and any rolls against you at disadvantage. Okay. As a rogue, when you are hidden, targets also can't see you, even when they move into the line of sight. You're no longer hidden after you move or attack. When you leave hidden to make an attack, the roll has advantage. Okay. And then they have sneak attack. If you have advantage on the attack roll or any allies in melee with your target, also add a d8 to your damage roll when you use sneak attack. You may also spend any number of hope before the attack roll, and if it's successful, also add a number of d8 equal to the hope spent. Okay. Okay, so it's your standard it's your standard rogue. It's a it's your standard rogue. It's funny because it's funny because it is really leaning onto the sneaky stabby rogue archetype, which a lot of people assume what a rogue is supposed to be anyway. That's World of Warcraft kind of influence, to be honest. And then because if you look at like 5e rogue, they're very much a skill monkey. They're not necessarily always about being the stabby type. They're more about finding that advantage and just being very good at a set of skills. Um, and leans into how other media interprets like the lovable rogue or just the rogue archetype. Like Han Solo, I would consider a rogue. He's not necessarily sneaky in the same way he's like hiding all the time. No, but he's very much a rogue in the sense that he has a very set of skills and he's always pretty much finding the opportune time to actually execute those things. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Phil. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And then there's subclasses. Oh, okay. We'll look at the subclasses in a second, because those are in the cards, and they have like sick ass art. Like the art is amazing on this thing too. Rogue is fine. Like Rogue, Ranger are kind of what you expect. Druid is Druid. Like you get the wild shape. Bard has a different way to do kind of inspiration. And that is more like a countdown till you can give it all out. Pretty much like with Bard, you want to actively be doing stuff so that you can or hold on. Let me roll that back. Well, like with the Bard, when anyone in your party rolls with fear, turn the rally die to increase its value by 1. So you have to meet the D6 threshold. So as soon as it hits pretty much 7, everybody gets a rally die. So it's very dependent on the team failing. So that is one of those things like, okay, like your count up die or your countdown die when you hit number 7 to give everybody a D6 depends on the table if they're whiffing a lot or not whiffing, but they're just rolling with fear a lot, giving the DM a lot of resources to spend. And Guardian is like, yeah, you could do the cool thing, but as soon as you're out of doing like your cool thing, you're gonna like, pretty much expend all your actual class ability. So no, we're after we look at all the options, we're gonna make the character. Let's go to Seraph. We're almost done with classes. Seraph is our stand-in for the cleric and the paladin. It is our holy warrior, pretty much class. They are splendor and valor. They have prayer dice at the beginning of a session. Roll a d4. Okay, roll the number of d4 dice equal to your spellcast trait and store them to the right. You can exhaust them at any time to use their value in reducing incoming damage, adding to a roll result, or exchanging for that many hope you may give to any player. Clear these dice at the end of a session. That is interesting. Okay, that's it's just not straight up healing, like lay on hands, or like it's kind of like if you can like store up a bunch of bless options and just like a bunch of bless die, and then you just have them all stored up, and then whenever you need to use them, here you go. You can exhaust them at any time you use their value to reduce incoming damage. Added the result. This is pretty much a bardic inspiration in a way. This is where the bardic inspiration went. It's like you have a bunch of blessed die, your prayer die, and then okay, here you go, boom. Yeah, it's really cool because for me, it's like it is a little thematic. It's really thematic that fits into the divine holy warrior paladin, and then also like the healer white mage priest. Like it fits within both of them because that is my gripe with 5e of how the paladin and the cleric conceptually overlap, but they're mechanically like different. Like they're both divine, and cleric has holy warriors, and the paladin is the holy warrior. So your mind is breaking because of that. I don't know, my man. Take some Tylenol. I think they needed to find a term that meant like holy warrior. Um, Seraph, like I don't have a problem with it. Like, it's just it's a word. Like, oh well. Also, okay, this might be why. You have winged sentinel, where you turn into a literal angel as a subclass. That's probably why. And then you have divine wielder. You're just you have a holy magic. I'm a seraph. Yeah. Okay, let's go look at sorcerer. Let's see if they try to do different stuff with it. Okay, this one has three class features. This one's Arcana and Midnight. I believe Midnight they share that with the Rogue. Okay, Arcane Sense. You sense the presence of magical people and objects when you're close to them. Make a spellcast roll of a 10. Okay, spellcast roll. On a success, you create a minor visual illusion no larger than yourself within close range that is convincing to anyone in the far range or further. Okay. Channel Raw Power. Once per long rest, you can replace a domain card from your loadout into your vault and choose to either gain a hope equal to the level of the card, add magic damage equal to twice the level of the card to a spell you've successfully cast. Oh man. So the class, I don't like this class. Like the Paradise would like to see a similar mechanic. Yeah, that actually the Paradise is probably the cleaner mechanic. It's because you already have that store, like you have that stored D4, and you kind of expend them whenever you need to. Um, I don't know about the sorcerer. I'm kind of like, okay, nothing about this says like I'm inherently magical, like in terms of how they express the mechanics. You have minor illusion, which okay, um, you can sense magical objects and people. But channel raw power, you're replacing cards that you have active to gain a momentary benefit. Right, you can place a domain card from your loadout into your vault and choose either to gain hope equal to the level of the card, so you can actually pretty much have a set number of resources to kind of help you overcome certain obstacles as you throughout the story, or if you need them immediately. Add magic damage equal to twice the level of the card to a spell you successfully cast. I think that's kind of the issue, and I see this with 5e also. They really struggle with expressing how to feel like you're inherently magical. So, and that's on the sorcerer. 5e does this, and I'm getting the same vibes off of Daggerheart. There's nothing in here that says I'm inherently magical. So yeah, my least favorite class so far. Like all the other ones, I'm like, okay, yeah, they do what they say on the name tag. But sorcerer is like it's the same thing with 5e. There's nothing that says I am magical. So yeah, little little whatever about the sorcerer. Least favorite there. Okay, warrior. This is going to be our frontliner stand-in that is meant to take the place of more of the aggressive, I guess, classes that normally 5e has. So it's going to be like the monk, the fighter, even though the fighter can also be a tank. And then we also have the barbarian, that more aggressive barbarians that aren't necessarily centered on tanking, and even to some extent the paladin. So let's see what we have here. Class items. You got battle strategist. Whenever you are making a roll to physically hinder a creature that isn't a weapon attack, shove, trip, grapple, etc., you can spend a hope to have advantage. On a success, you can choose to deal 1d8 physical damage to the target. Okay. And then we got combat training. Ignore burden when equipping weapons, and you may place primary weapons in your secondary weapon slot. Also add additional physical damage to equal to the value of your level when you attack. You ignore burden when equipping weapons, and you may place primary weapons in your secondary weapon slot. Okay. Okay. So is this the dual wheel fighter? that gets from Warcraft the spec that allows you to have like two big old two-handed weapons in each hand. Like that's what combat training means. Like, yeah, I got two big old gray swords. If I'm reading that correctly, that's what it seems like. Battle strategy is pretty cool. You reroll to physically hinder a creature that isn't a weapon, attack, shove, trip, grapple, etc. You can spend a hope to have advantage. On success, you could choose to deal a D8 physical damage to the target. Yeah. I can't make a luchador class in Daggerheart because it's already in warrior. There, that's right there. Bam. I'll just play luchador there. Bam. I'm good. That's right there. I'll put Call of the Mask. I'll just make that subclass for them, and boom. I'm tempted to actually like port over my classes in some fashion to some other games, and if I like Daggerheart and kind of seeing how simplified the game is, and if I can learn it a little bit, I might just do some really quick stuff. But yeah, Luchador is like, yeah, you're a warrior, and it will just give you a subclass. But yeah, the warrior's fight, like it's you're hitting, and then this right here, battle strategist. What I'm seeing, like it's really reinforcing other like play styles to not just hit stuff. Right, it wants you to be more active in like trying to manipulate the battlefield and manipulating enemies so that you have a more of a tactical impact on the on fights, and while also dealing damage to do so. It's not bad. I like that thing. And then combat training, if you want to be the guy that has like two weapons in your hands, that's sick. That's fine. It's not that bad. Yeah, see that's why I like it's this is I like warrior also. I'm liking the frontliners a lot. What is it magical about making an illusion on command? It's Yeah, you can make an illusion on command, but in a narrative game, if you're a wizard and you're trained, you can also make like if it's a minor illusion. I'm assuming a trained wizard can also do the same. I want to give this game a fair shake, but now we're using cards instead of dice or timers, and they have mechanical identity issues. I think there's it's two things, because obviously you're not going to be using cards in a traditional sense for digital play, right? They already have a digital, like Daggerheart is going to be fully supported by Demiplane. It is in open beta right now. You guys can go to Demiplane right now and check everything out for free and create characters for free, right? And then you'll be able to use these character sheets to play, and everything will be tracked in Demiplane, right? Like it is just like exactly like D&D Beyond. So you don't really have those things in a physical space. Now, if you're playing at the table, they're using physical pieces, and this is me making an assumption of why they're using physical pieces. They're making physical pieces to help you keep track of things that normally, if you play 5e or even if you play Pathfinder, you kind of have to do it on a sheet or in your head, right? But they're taking like a step up and actually having some of these physical pieces interact with the classes in some way, but not in such a way that, at least like we saw at Sorcerer, right? Come on, Demiplane. That we saw with the Sorcerer, they could remove a card from their actual loadout and put it into the vault to gain a momentary benefit, right? That's the only time we've seen that. It seems like they're the only class that does that right now. So I could see why they're doing physical stuff from a gameplay perspective at the table, because they're trying to mimic digital play and digital tools if you do not want to play with digital tools. At the same time, from a business perspective, it makes a whole lot of sense to have physical items that they can sell, since TTRPGs in general sell really terrible for game stores, and just sell really terrible in terms of like actual product. Like That is the biggest complaint you heard from Hasbro and WotC in regards to just D&D sales. Um, I, Having some of these board game items kind of like in the game for those that want to play at the table with physical stuff kind of makes sense for me. Like it makes sense. I don't like, but it is a valid criticism. Like I see with like I think Daryl and I know you said Phil that it's like it's not like it may have identity issues what it's trying to do. I see what they want to do, but I don't know if it's like without actually playing it. I don't know if it's gonna be successful. How will it play in VTTs? All those you don't have the physical things. It's all gonna be digital. You won't need a D4 tracking die for your guardian ability because it'll just tick down automatically. And the physical cards could just pop up on the screen, and then you just click. I want to do this thing. Like it's not really that hard. The board type gimmick. I think you're judging it ahead of time than actually playing with it. That's my call. Like it's not completely a board game. And even then, if you're already playing with minis and dice, you're practically playing a board game. You're playing with dice maps and minis. You're playing a board game already. The only difference is like, okay, they're adding cards to certain functions, and I've played enough board games that don't even have cards involved with them. Um, I don't, I, I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think it's right. Like it is something. My take is I need to test it out to see how much of these actual resources are helpful to keeping track of play, because that's one of the things when designing for 5e. I will omit or alter mechanics I'm making for player options simply because of how hard the tracking is in order to like pretty much maintain an ease of use for the person I'm intending to design for, right? Like a player option that I want people to engage with. With Lucha Die specifically, it is you're generating a dice pool, and well, that I want you to have physical dice that you're building up in a actual pool so you can, roll dice. That's what and that's why, and for me, I don't see some of these as any different from that. It's like actually doing it, but also coming from like 5e and playing some other and finally dipping my toes in some other games. I guarantee there's going to be resistance to this because it's not what you traditionally see in like TTRPGs. And I don't blame them. I would say just give it a try to see how useful these tools actually are for the game. I also come from a MTG background. Like I played Magic the Gathering for a very, very long time. I pretty much don't play anymore. And having physical cards for stuff to do certain things, like it doesn't feel distant for me. It doesn't feel unfamiliar. So I don't mind it. Like it's I want to test them out before I make a judgment call and be like, yeah, this sucks. Because I think their intent is to give you these tools to help you keep track of things. My concern is with all these tools to help you keep track of stuff, how much are these tools going to get in the way of play? And that's my concern with like having the cards and having these dice track certain things. Do they actually help and solve the issue that that you see with like 5e, and especially personally saw with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where you don't have unless it's automated systems where you're playing digital with digital tools. And when you're trying to do this all in person, you kind of forget certain things, or you're not able to track them in a certain way without going out of your way to get your own tools to do it. So again, let's see what it does. All right, last class is Wizard, and then we're going to jump into communities, which are kind of like your backgrounds. Then we'll go to domains. We'll briefly go over domains because there's a bunch of cards of what they're able to do, and then we'll go into subclasses. And then they don't have race options, but when we start making the character, we can just look at the races there. Okay, so wizard's the last one. All right, is the what I'm wanting to see is the wizard the I learn magic, I study magic class. Right. Prestidigitation, you can perform a harmless, subtle magic effect at will. Examples might include changing the object's colors, creating a smell, lighting a candle, etc. So prestidigitation, cool. Strange patterns. Choose a number between 1 and 12. Anytime you roll that number on a duality die, you gain a hope or clear stress. You may change this number on any long rest. Oh, okay. You choose a number between 1 and 12. Anytime you roll that number on a duality die, gain hope or clear stress. Okay. I have, I think, for me personally, Wizard and Sorcerer are the big misses here. They are the big misses for me here because neither of them are really selling me on the idea of like, I study magic or I am magical. Yes, they have some like stand in spells. Like, you have Minor Illusion with the Sorcerer, and then you have excuse me, I can never say this right. Prestidigitation for Wizard, but you don't have anything else. Like, and then you have these mechanics that are cool, but they don't. This doesn't tell me, hey, I study magic. Yeah, and that for me, that's the big disconnect. Yeah, so that's probably going to be my thing with the wizard and sorcerer. They probably function perfectly fine. It's just in terms of their narrative identity, what you wanting them to be. I don't I don't think they succeed at that compared to like everybody else, where it feels very spot on. Like, yep, that's what they are. Sorcerer and like for me is like just put these under mage, put inventor in there, and I think you're good. I think you're fine. You already kind of have like most of the. I think you're kind of already have like most of the other magic kind of classes already covered anyway that fit that archetype. You switch this to mage, allow a player to kind of dictate, well, if they are inherently magical, they study magic, or if their magic comes from a otherworldly patron. Boom, you get all the major three covered right there, and then you have inventor. You kind of have all your base like fantasy archetypes kind of covered. So yeah. Classes wise, I like. Let's see, we got 3, 6, 9. I like 7 out of the 9. The spellcaster one, like the arcane spellcasters, are kind of the ones I'm like, huh? You guys seen that cat that's floating around on floating around social media that goes, huh? That's me right now with these last two. All right. All right, let's go backgrounds. So they're called communities, so it's wherever your characters are from. I like this idea of having like communities as kind of like the stand-in for your background that kind of help signify like the culture you're from. This is something I believe 5e does terrible at, and I'm really enjoying that Daggerheart is doing, changing that up and actually doing something with where your background actually is and how that influences you as a person. A community has a sense of culture. It helps form your identity. So going in this direction really, really helps shape that, because I think that is something that is missing in the mechanics for 5e, as I'm using 5e as a comparison. Especially something like Forgotten Realms, you have all these nations and all these countries that have very, very distinct cultures, but they're not represented really in any fashion in the game mechanics. While you have something like Eberron, on the other hand, who really tries to guide players with options to be like, hey, you want to be from this nation? You can be any of these races, but like since you're from this nation, it's about being like, this is kind of the culture that they have there. These are the options that they lean towards as a player if you want to help express that. Daggerheart over here already has the stuff baked in, and it's still, since the game is light, you're not gonna really have too many like buffs from it. It just gives you a single option at each of them. I won't go dive into each option. I just want to see what communities they have. Highborn, pretty much if you want to be a noble, you're gonna be a highborn. Loreborn, you're from Hogwarts. You're from academia. You're learned. You're a studied person. You're a learner. Orderborn, a part of a community, means you were raised in a place of great discipline or faith. Okay, so more of a religious background. Cool. Set of principles that reflect there. Ridgeborn, you're part of a ridge community. Ridgeborn community means you call the rocky peaks, and okay, so you're from the mountains. From the mountains. All right, that's fine. Seaborn, you're from the ocean. Slyborn, you're from the underbelly. You're from the dark alleys, criminals, and con artists. Okay. Underborn, you're from the Underdark, but we're not going to call it Underdark. This is uh legally distinct, right? Legally distinct Underdark. Wanderborn, you're a nomad, and Wildborn, you're from the wilds. Okay. So they have all the major ones covered. It'll be interesting to see if they try to add in more, but they have like all the major, like, biomes or areas you can actually draw yourself from. Okay, cool. Domains. So each class is made up of 2 domains, and then as you can see, there is a bunch of abilities that you get them from. So they have them in ABC order. I really wish they had them listed by. Okay, well, let's just do this. Arcana. So my reading of these is that this is the level. This is the level, and this is the level and the number of stress you need to spend to use this feature, right? So at level 1, you have the option, from what I remember from seeing, we'll do this in the character creation too, to hopefully that confirms it. From what I remember is that at level 1, you get the option to choose between 2 out of 4 cards. There's 2 cards for each domain. So you can either pick, like, if your Arcana is one of your domains, you can pick both Arcana, or you can pick like one of each from domains you have. It looks like at levels 1, 2, 3, we had 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 6, and okay. So at every level, you get to pick something. Okay. Oh, let's go. Okay. Have you seen or played any of the touchstones the game expresses as an inspiration for the rules? I love that they show their roots with a sense of pride. I played Cypher's System thanks to KedHup. He got me involved in a cyberpunk adaptation, like a version of Cypher System. I really enjoy Cypher System as a game. It's actually up on KedHup's channel, QEDHUP, here on YouTube. I am in the game with Bob World Builder and Nerd Immersion. So definitely go check that out if you want to go see that one. That was a very, very fun game. Cypher is a good system. Other systems, no. Part of it is finding time. I have a full-time job, so it's hard for me to play other systems, and I play only once a week and with my buddies, and we play 5e. Right now we're doing we're doing one shots because our current DM is having some family stuff going on. So this Friday we're finishing up what was supposed to be a one shot. We're playing. We got the Humblewood options on D&D Beyond. We're all playing mice. We're helping a wizard hunt down a Varrock that he shrunk down to size. Since we're mice, we're the same size as the Varrock. And in exchange of killing this Varrock or capturing it, we get a bunch of cheese. So you can tell how serious my play group is. We're playing 5e because I'm working on the Scourge class for 5e. So I'm using that as a playtest. I'm playtesting myself. Found some issues already, like doing stuff. Oh, hell, the big cheese. Yeah. For the prophecy, follow the cheese. I'm playing a Scourge, the class I'm testing. I'm currently developing, and he's an acolyte of the Church of Big Cheese. So yeah. Okay, so this right here, the energy indicator on the top right of the card is the cost to exchange the domain card with another card in an instant. You can do so for free while you are long resting. Interesting. Okay, I thought that was just like the level of stress you need to take on to actually use the feature. Oh, it's just exchange it. That's interesting. Okay, okay, that's cool. Yeah. So, oh man. Okay, that's kind of an interesting mechanic because that means you're gonna want to have a deck of cards with these. Man, yeah, they're gonna sell you on this stuff. Okay. Okay, here's the bone. We have Kodak, which is gonna be the for like one of the ones for the wizard. It's interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, we got Midnight. Boom. Really like the art. They're doing really good on like the art's crazy on this. Man, I can just imagine seeing somebody now like turning the Daggerheart system and using the cards as like a card game, like a mini Daggerheart card game. Um the way I'm seeing how new classes are going to be developed for this game is a combination of like it's mixing the combinations of domains that are not currently mixed together. That is how I see is how you're going to be able to like I guess homebrew classes. And then really to consider is like okay which options are you going to want to pair together or creating full domains to help facilitate stuff that's not in there. Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. Yeah. So a lot of options. Pretty much your class is gonna have like two together, and then between all these at certain levels, you get to pick. They're pretty straightforward. To be honest, they you read what they do and then you do the thing. Not too much to go on really about with the domains. Pretty much just your action cards. They just tell you what you're supposed to be doing. All right. So subclasses. So each class is gonna have two subclasses. I think from the start. Fortunately, they do not have these in actual order, which is frustrating. But it looks like from at certain levels, you're going to get access to higher level of features. Pretty much like a subclass features. Each one's going to have three. So we have Beastbound for the Ranger here, which I'm assuming is your animal companion subclass. Cool. Warrior gets Call of the Brave and it gets the Slayer. Call of the Brave is looks to be one that's going to be overcoming fear. So whenever you fail a roll with fear, you gain a hope, and you're going to be able to generate resources that way. Call of the Slayer, you have become inspirational warrior to help you travel with. You gain a new downtime option called martial preparation. Okay. Call of the Slayer, when you roll with hope, you may choose to place a single D6 Slayer die on this card instead of taking hope. You can store a number of D6 Slayer dice equal to your proficiency and can pick up a number of these dice and roll them when making a weapon attack or damage roll. Dang. Okay, that's sick. Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna forego giving hope to myself, and I'm just gonna stack damage. That's appealing, but I'm wondering how actually like how much stronger. Right, the more you get into the system, how much stronger it is like to actually just save up and get hope. Yeah, it's a tight system. I'd imagine it's more likely to expand the options within the domains. Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to add more domain cards to kind of spice some things up. They're probably if they're going to introduce new, I guess, classes, my guess is that they're going to mix domains. They're going to mix domain combinations that aren't normally like together, and also add in subclasses. Like that's really like that's kind of the way to go from what it looks like to go about it. Elemental origin, sorcerer. So they have elemental origin for the sorcerer. They got a divine wielder, so this is not going to be your I use wings to fly like in the picture. It's the I have magical spirit weapon. Okay. Sparing touch. Once per long range, you can touch a creature and heal 2 hit points. Okay, so this is kind of like your castery, white mage, divine wielder, cleric. Okay, and then you have elemental sorcerer. You got Nightwalker rogue that uses the actual shadows. Cool. Primal origin. What's the difference between elemental and primal? What the? Okay. You're the Avatar, Last Airbender, and here an elemental. And then I'm assuming primal, you're more arcane. The primal forces, the like natural raw magic forces. I'm assuming that's what that is. School of Knowledge for a wizard. School of War, so war mage or like nerd mage. Cool. Stalwart for the guardian. What does this one do? Raise when you take this foundation, raise all your damage thresholds by 2. Okay, so it's more the aggressive one. Take physical damage. You may spend a hope die instead of marking an armor slot to reduce the damage. Okay. So this is going to be the more aggressive tank from what it looks like. School of War mage is going to be the more aggressive mage, I'm assuming, while the knowledge one's going to be more of the you gain price of knowledge through great study when you make a knowledge roll to recall information. That is the studious mage. Okay. Okay, cool. Syndicate, I'm assuming this is going to be more of your typical thief, assassin-esque rogue. You give somebody that calls this place a home, you give them a name. Note. Okay. Troubadour for the bard. Describe when you play a relaxing song during a moment of calm, you and a close ally heal 1 point. When you play an epic song during battle, make a target temporarily vulnerable. When you play a heartbreaking song at any time, you and your close allies take a hope. Cool. Vengeance, guardian. When you take this foundation, you gain additional armor slot immediately. Okay, so this is the tanky one. Okay. Warden of Renewal. So I'm assuming this is going to be more of the healer druid. Once you create a space of natural serenity around you after spending a few minutes rest within the space, you can clear stress. Yes, it is the healer druid. Warden of the Elements. This is going to be the more aggressive spellcaster one, right? Yep. There's there. 27 slots for additional classes. They based on all combinations of the existing domains. Dang. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, Mob Boss Rogue. Yeah. Okay. So I think this is the way that they're going to do. They're going to expand. I can see them expanding the options for players here. Right now it's limited to 2 base subclasses, and then each class has a 2 set of domains. New classes will have a mixture of new domains while they continue to expand on domain cards, like the ones that they already preset, and expand on subclasses. Yeah, there's definitely room to expand. Yeah, I'm just in terms of the base options that they've presented so far, I'm not hot on sorcerer or wizard. There's just both of those compared to the other classes feel like their mechanics and like don't hit the narratives that they want on there. So that's why it's a little. It's interesting. It's probably my feedback, but I need to play it to kind of see it too. But in terms of just reading it, those are the 2. I'm like, oh man, I feel those didn't hit. Let's see, Wayfinder Ranger, and then we got Wing Sentinel. So you zoom in, baby. We were literally flying. Okay, and Wordsmith. Okay, you're the talkie. Okay. Okay. Yeah. In terms of subclasses, a lot of these do what you expect them to do, which is pretty sweet. They give you at least 2 options of play. And hitting like some of the big narrative, the bigger narrative narrative tropes that you'd expect that fall under the class structure, which is fine. My worry is since some of some of the subclasses hit some of the bigger ones already, when they add new subclasses, how much are those going to be too much of a niche where they're not as good? That's my only worry. Okay, give me a sec. Let me run to the restroom really quick, and then we're gonna build a character. We'll start building characters. We'll look at all the race options, etc. Just let me run to the restroom really quick, and then we'll finish up with Daggerheart. Alrighty. All right, let's make a character. Let me see what you guys said in the chat right now. The class and the foundations are never separate. They are more defined together than separately. I like that the expansion feels more natural. With D&D, it's always been a challenge for them to add new subclasses, classes, or even spells unless you're using digital tools. I hope this game is as fun as it seems. My friends and I are going to do Assassin's Zero on Monday, then play it later that day, maybe. So I'm so excited. Finding spells across multiple books is challenging. Their live play Tuesday night was joyful. Yeah, I caught the live play. I watched it, and it's been a while since I've watched Critical Role because I wanted to see how this game played, and it ran pretty smooth. I was very apprehensive on the need for tokens and cards and stuff, and how that was gonna really slow down table play. But part of it too, because the way I see Daggerheart positioning itself, depending on how fast the release is and for the beta and stuff like that, I'm not sure. My only personal guess, it is there's no basis in fact on any of this. I'm not sure Critical Role's next campaign is going to be in 5e. I have a feeling they're positioning this so that this is going to be their new system of choice for their live play games for pretty much Exandria and Tal'Dorei. Like this is going to be CR season 4 is going to be Daggerheart. If not, they definitely are going to have a Daggerheart actual play similar to they have Candela Obscura. Like that's really the only two directions I see them going with this. Is this is going to replace 5e, so they're only dependent on their system. They have a bigger reach and audience compared to D&D, at least in terms of online presence on social media and YouTube and other platforms, which should scare Wizards and get them to get their shit together. But with that said, I see them positioning themselves to either have a actual play show dedicated to Daggerheart, or this replaces the main the system for their main game, because it ran smooth for them as they were playing it. The tokens did not get in the way like I thought they were going to be, at least for them. So yeah, my play group, we will try it also. I hope you enjoy your session 0 and you enjoy the game, because I really think, whether this is your system or not, I think there's folks that are going to want more of a wargamey system, which is perfectly fine, because there are fantasy wargamey systems out there. If you really want to get into that, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is right there. I highly suggest it. It is a very, very solid game, very, very well built design game. If you're really wanting a wargaming experience, if you're wanting something more on the narrative direction, I'm hoping that a narrative direction where you're still playing the fantasy game that has some mechanical weight to it. I'm hoping Daggerheart fills that niche, where it is more about that narrative driven game, and that's perfectly. Or I'm hoping Daggerheart succeeds at being that, filling that space for that style of play. The more games that are out there that exposes people to this space and gets them to try and play more games is always a good thing. There shouldn't be a stranglehold on the space of the industry on one game, by one game and one company. It really, a healthy space would have that there's actual competition in the space, so that companies that have a big IP are forced to actually innovate, are forced to actually address and correct things that the community are asking for. And there's other games that fit in between the spectrum that are coming out that fit into the same 5e space, that are also in this like character expression, somewhat narrative, but also nuts and bolts. We still want to play a war game. For example, Vagabond by Indestructible Boy. I got to do a demo of that one. That is a very, very smooth system where it knows what it wants to do. It wants you to go dungeon delve, go fight monsters. You can still goof off and still play, but it's very much a clean system where you just run through, and you get to do what you want to do. But it's still very much not necessarily, I guess, leans on combat a lot, but it not in a way where it's bungled down like I feel that Pathfinder can be, where it's like you're playing a combat game. When I get a chance, I want to do let's build a Vagabond character soon. Like that's then there's also, I haven't checked it out, but DC-20, Dungeon Coach has his own system. I haven't checked it out yet, but that's also going to sit in the same space as kind of 5e. There's also Tales of the Valiant, which is just 5e. Like, so there's going to be enough options around. MCDM also, another system that's going to sit in this fantasy space. So there's going to be flavors of vanilla for everybody. Like, it's just, you want French vanilla, you want Spanish vanilla, you just want regular processed corn syrup vanilla. Like, you're going to have your options. So, but yeah, I'm hoping Daggerheart does well. I want them to do it because it is going to expose more people to this space. And it's going to expose them, and it's also going to like expose players already in the TTRPG space to other styles of play. And that's another thing too, because people really are really stuck to their systems, and I'm hoping that games like this and MCDM all kind of break out and allow people to be like, hey, there's other ways to play games, and that's okay. And okay. I do think Daggerheart would be great to replace Candela Obscura as an alternative to the main Sierra game. I think Candela Obscura has its place. Um, uh, it's not my style of game. It is competing with other games that are kind of trying to do this similar niche, Vice, like this sort of like horror esque sort of vibe that kind of reminds me of Call of Cthulhu. Vicen is another one. Vicen's a really solid game too, and it kind of fits in there, but I don't think it does things different enough. If you guys want to see a review of the game, check out Indestructible Boy's review on Candle Obscura. It's a really solid review. I think they also want to expand on expressive storytelling in a much more free-form way that lends itself to their style of play. Yeah, and that's where I think Daggerheart will fit in for them, that 5e doesn't necessarily allow them to do. There's also third party for D&D 5e that almost has most of the spells in card form you can buy. Yep, there's always options to kind of fill in some of those gaps for 5e. To be its own thing while competing with similar competitors sounds like one of the worst dualities to deal with. Hope they can pull it off. That's why I'm thinking it's going to be one of those things. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are in a lose-lose situation with this because CR is their unofficial spokesperson for 5e, but they also have now just created a competitor to 5e. Whether that's the reality of it, even though it's not really playing on a very similar axis to 5e, they made a competitor to 5e. What character do I want to make? Yeah, let's get into some of this character building stuff. We didn't get into heritages because they have them all here. So let's look at some of the race options here. We got a Clank, which is your robot people. So, and that's one thing I want to comment on too when looking at the race options or the ancestries. Better call them ancestries. They seem very CR, don't they? So we don't got Tiefling, but we got Daemons. Dracona, we got Dragonborn. Got your dwarves. Elves. You got your fairies. You got your fawns. Furbolg looks exactly like they do in CR. You got fungal people, the Fungrill. You got your Tortles, legally distinct Tortles, the Galapa. You no longer have Goliath, you have just Giant, which is perfectly fine. Goblins. Halflings. And okay, the one thing I'm really surprised they went with halfling instead of gnome, because gnomes I feel in terms of like similar small folk, gnomes are a little bit have a more distinct name for their identity. Halfling, it's like we can't use hobbit, so we're gonna use halfling. You got human, Qatari for cat people, because yeah. Orcs, ribbits, which is everybody's like going nuts over, and then you got Simia, monkey. I definitely would play a monkey. I'm not gonna lie. How I would play it. I would be a gorilla. I'd be a gorilla guardian or a gorilla warrior. I'd be a Simia. Personally, I'm gonna make a character like for me, I'm going monkey, like hands down. Choose a community. Oh, hold on. Well, I don't want to. Let's go back real quick. Yeah, like you have a monkey on there, man. I can't take advantage on agility rolls that involve balancing and climbing and add a +1 to your evasion at the character creation. Okay, that's cool. I'm not very interested in ribbits because everybody's like, I want to be a frog. It's cool. Like, I'm not gonna hate on anybody who wants to be a ribbit. Like, everybody's played Chrono Trigger probably, and they want to be frog. That's perfectly fine. Like, go for it, have at it. But not all of us need to be frog from Chrono Trigger. But yeah, if I get to be a monkey or a goblin, I'm normally gonna be a monkey or a goblin in a game. Okay. So yeah, Go be a frog. Go do crime. No, we're gonna be a monk. Um, Robots are pretty dang cool too. But yeah, the ancestry options really seem coded to CR with some legally distinct names for some of them, but they seem really coded for CR. And that's perfectly fine. That's why I've kind of like, they really might be prepping this and setting this up to be their main system now, because every character in CR like they've had so far, they can use Daggerheart. They can make it using Daggerheart. So that's why I'm just like, maybe the okay. None honestly, yeah, we're just gonna go with that. Okay, what kind of community should we be from? We're gonna be highborn. I don't imagine my gorilla Planet of the Apes kind of character being from Highborn, Orderborn, Ridgeborn. We're from the mountains. Let's see. You know what? You said Grimson said do crime. We're gonna be Slyborn, baby. Okay. The race that has me thinking that Furbog literally being the cowfolk like race has done by them. Yeah. That's what was the big like the final like nail in the coffin. Because if you look at Clanks, let's bring up Clanks again. All right, Clanks and Furbog are very CR coded in terms of their design, because a lot of CR critical role automatons that they have in their setting in Exandria look like this. And then you have Furbog. And yeah, they look like cow people, which is fine. Like, so I'm thinking, and then you have Fawns now too, which is one of the Ashley Johnson's currently playing a satyr fawn character at the moment in their current campaign. So I was like, yeah, these three right here are just like, yep, that's definitely. It seems they're going to be setting some stuff up. All right, class. We're a crime monkey, gorilla. Naturally, I want to do warrior guardian. I'm going to be honest. Okay, let's. Like, if I'm playing this at the table, this is what I'm going for. Does that mean a Minotaur's? Ooh. That is true. That is true. Did not think of that. I just realized I'm making Winston from Overwatch. And I ain't mad about that. If you go Ranger or Rogue, you can be Hit Monkey instead of Hitman. That's true. Oh, that's funny. Hit Monkey. Finally, I get to roleplay as a Wookiee. What I'm, it's gonna be interesting. All right, so once they get the nuts and bolts of this system down, if they're gonna expand Daggerheart into, if Daggerheart's gonna be a, I know it's not. Like it'd be interesting to see how they expand and do like Daggerheart as like a sci-fi game, but I would actually rather have them just make it a like make their own sci-fi game. Okay, so I like this feature. I don't know, man. Warrior seems pretty badass. Like if you're gonna see, I'm thinking like if I were to play this, I'm making a monkey, and then I'm going, I'm going gorilla. But I'm wondering, it's like, okay, do I want to just tank a bunch of hits, or do I want to grapple, trip, and shove people around? Because it's like, it's funny. It's like bam, a sweep the leg. Yeah, if they have a sci-fi game, I'd rather just have them do a sci-fi thing. There's enough sci-fi games out there too, though, that I think kind of fit what they like the intention of. Well, they fit the game I would want to play, which is legally distinct Star Wars. Yeah, there is a literal Star Wars RPG out there. Then there's some other ones that they are Star Wars in everything but name. So that's what I would want to play. Guardian's cool because I like this sort of like physical damage reduction feature. But man, yeah, being able to show trip grapple and the damage on top of it, I'm ape strong, man. Ape strong. There is no warlock in Daggerheart. Warlock is omitted from the Daggerheart class list. Yeah, you're either gonna do wizard or sorcerer. Okay, yeah, we're gonna Bladen. Okay, we'll do class. We're gonna select this class. Okay. Choose your subclass. Okay, let's look at our subclasses. Call of the Brave. When you fail a roll with fear, you gain hope. You gain hope. Once prolonged rest before you attempt something incredibly dangerous or face off against a foe who clearly outmatches you. You describe that ritual you perform or preparation you make to clear 2 stress and gain 2 hope. Okay. I have a feeling, without knowing the system, in the long run, being able to clear stress and gain hope and have stuff to spend on hope is going to be like the thing you want to do. But Slayer like sounds cool because hey, you reduce, you just save up a bunch of like you don't use hope, you instead take d6 die and then you just do damage. But I think for the kind of sort of grapply character I'm wanting to do, since we're not doing weapon damage here, right? We're to be kind of like grappling and shoving and doing that kind of funny stuff. We're go here. Select your traits. You suggested traits. What are the suggested traits? What are the suggested traits? Okay, we need to go strength because we want to grapple. Right? Let's go. We'll go with instinct. We'll go with agility because we're monkey. And then our -1, we should probably do. Hey Josh, what's the general thoughts on the game so far? I intend to give it a look. Honestly, my gut reaction to it after kind of just watching CR play the game and just kind of like walking through it, my interest is peaked. I'm not gonna have like a really more thought out opinion on it until my play group actually plays it, which we plan on doing a one shot for it. I'll probably run for it. My interest is peaked in terms of character expression that I'm looking at it. They give you enough options, at least in the beta, to kind of make most of what you want to make. So you're going to have that. From what it looks like, right? Okay, from what it looks like in terms of scores for your ability scores, it is going to use a standard array of 2, a +2, a +1, a +1, and a negative. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. Strength is going to be the thing I want because I want to grapple and shove people. That I'm being a guerrilla warrior. So yeah, so we're going to be doing that. To be honest, again, to go back, Krieg, I probably will do a video on this like my thoughts on the system like a little later whenever I get a chance to play it. It probably won't be like algorithm friendly, but it'll just be something that'll share my thoughts on. Maybe in a live stream. I'm trying to balance out what kind of videos I'm doing. I've been doing videos for new player options for 5e, and they're doing okay. Like they're not doing hot. So those might I'm still going to be releasing those player options and stuff on Patreon, but based off the next one I release in April, will determine if I continue to do videos like that, or I might just stick to doing shorts and live streams and just doing live stream walkthroughs and stuff of like some of these TTRPGs and still focusing on 5e design and just cutting up those options there. So yeah. So again, so yeah, we're gonna go with this. I want to be able to grapple. I want to be able to move. I want to be aware of stuff. But I'm dumb. Like I'm a monkey. I'm a monkey. So there's that. Starting equipment. Okay. Starting equipment. Choose your armor. Making a character with others versus alone seems like the way to go. Makes much more dynamic characters off the rip. Yeah. This is something my playgroup has figured out too. With a lot of our one shots, we come up with a theme and we're just making really funny characters that we have a good time with, versus characters we've made for long form games or long games where we kind of just make our own character and then bring it to the table and then realize our party makeup kind of sucks because of it and the characters don't always mesh. So I highly recommend that, especially for something like this where it is very narrative dependent. So yeah. Um. So yeah, let's see what kind of weapons we can get. So choose you pretty much we get to choose an armor. We get to choose other starting items. I don't know if it allow like these are just all the items I get to choose. Why do that alone, especially on a long term campaign? I think honestly, it's because my playgroup wants to play certain things. That's really it. Yeah, like a lot of them, just like I've been wanting to play this class for so long. So like they have that. That's what they want to do. They have a character in mind, and it's actually a symptom of playing certain campaigns, like longer campaigns back to back. That we play so long that, oh man, I have this other character I want to play when I get a chance. I normally have like a a plethora of characters to pick from. So if somebody picks something that's narratively similar or a class that I already want to play, I have another character that can fit in. Um, you gotta have arcane gauntlets. I'm sorry. I want to punch stuff. Arcane gauntlets. Okay, we can do that. Uh, what the heck? Glowing rings. What? There's a okay. So what I see in this character, he's gonna punch stuff with his arcane gauntlets. He's going around just punching stuff. He's a giant gorilla monkey, but he's also Roadhog now from Overwatch, where he can hook people in. Oh, he uses finesse. Never mind. Never mind. No, can't. Okay, give me a sec, guys. I need to answer this phone call. Alrighty. Okay. So, sorry, I had a phone call. All right. In terms of like backup option, we're gonna have a shield. We're gonna have fist gauntlets. We're gonna punch stuff, and then we're gonna be able to protect ourselves. We're gonna go in on strength since it is our best stat. Arcane gauntlets will allow us to punch stuff from what it looks like, and then round shield uses strength anyways. It does a D4 damage if we need it to do, but it gives us +2 to armor score. So that it's a bonus. We only need to use it when we need to use the shield. So I'm all for this as my secondary weapon. So yeah, that's pretty sick. And then there's a big ass tower shield. Boo. That's sick. So yeah, so we're gonna go with arcane gauntlets as our weapons and a shield. We're gonna punch stuff, and then we're gonna just like hide behind the shield and get closer and punch stuff again, grapple them, toss them, do monkey stuff. This is starting to get we're getting sick. 2 damage types are also the only thing to worry about. So you're usually dealing damage you need to, or swapping to deal the right kind of damage. Yeah, I noticed that too. It's only magic damage and physical damage, which is really solid. I think it's pretty awesome, especially coming over from like looking at this from a 5e lens, because 5e has the damage types, right? But they absolutely don't do shit with them. Like they don't do anything special with them. They're just different damage types that most monsters will have a resistance to and never really any a weakness to. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I'll just out of the 10 damage types, okay, your resistance to 3, so I'll choose one of the other 7. Like, you know, that's kind of that kind of stuff. So it's nice to see here. It's like, well, they're not going to care about the damage typing, except you have physical, and then you have magic, and then that's all you got to worry about. Again, it's for a lighter load, and I don't mind that. So let's go starting armor. So you can use your armor. When you equip armor in your character, record its details in the active armor section. Your armor should include your armor's base value plus any permanent bonuses you have for the armor. So it's suggesting us to get a breastplate. 5 here. 7. Okay. We want to be able to move though. We ain't trying. I think breastplate's the call here, to be honest. Like, okay, we're seeing some negatives to my evasion. We want to take advantage of our, yeah, see it, and then a -1 to agility. We want to take advantage of our agility. But what's this? Let's let armor +1 to evasion. Oh, we quick. No, well, let's be able to take some hits. Get here. And as you can see, like with Demiplane, it is very, very much in the same vein as D&D Beyond, right? Everything's already built into the system. So all you're doing is picking options. Since this is the beta, we don't really have to choose too many different options. It limits the options based off of your class. So it already builds everything into what you need to do. You're not really flipping through sheets. It makes it easier. Since this is actually free right now because of the open beta, it makes it so much easier. Like if we were to do this right with the PDF and just a PDF sheet, I probably would break my brain. Don't you ignore burden for armor and weapons, or just weapons? You know what? Let's look at my class right now. I think, okay, choose class. Ignore burdens when equipping weapons, and you place primary weapons in your secondary weapon slot. Also, always add additional physical damage type to the value of your level when you attack. Okay, only when equipping weapons. I ignore burdens. So I'm assuming it's not so much armor. It's just weapons. So yeah, we have that there. All right, in terms of starting inventory, let's take a health potion here. A drawing of a lever, or sharpening stone. We're gonna do a drawing of a lever. I am the weapon. I don't use weapons, so there's nothing to sharpen. Okay. And the picture of my lover is a banana. All right. Let's see. So we get to pick two out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, right? So let's see what we get. You can spend a hope to move anywhere within far range without getting the DK. But yeah, we're going Donkey Kong. You could spend hope to move anywhere within far range without making an agility roll to get there. Okay, we might need to do that. This is very monkey vibes, to be honest. Like, okay, you just get there. What, not gonna choose peanut butter? Oh, peanut butter. Okay. For you, the picture of my loved one is a banana inside a jar of peanut butter. There we go. Best of both worlds. Best of both worlds. Okay, I see it coming when you're targeted by a range attack. Mark a stress to roll your hope die and increase the evasion against this attack and its value. And then we got nimble. This is all bone. While this card is in your loadout, add your agility score to your evasion. Okay, we have a +1 there. Not bad. Okay. That one's not bad either. Oh, sussy. How's that sussy? You can interpret it however you want. When you take damage from a creature in melee range, you may mark a stress to immediately deal weapon damage to the creature at half proficiency. Okay. And then retaliation. Whirlwind. When you make a successful attack using a weapon with melee or very close range, you may also spend hope to use that roll against every... Okay, that's no brainer. I hit as many people as possible. We're gonna Zangief Cyclone over here. Okay, and I think I want one of these like movement abilities. Oh, man, yeah. Def Maneuver sounds pretty sick to kind of just get to a place. Like you got leap power here, and then you got the Geef here. I'm rocking that. That sounds pretty sick. Okay. Let's go to experiences. Choose your description. Clothes that are I'm original. What I'm liking about this in like a serious looking at this instead of just jokingly answering this stuff, I'm liking in terms of when you're creating your character, they are having the player really think about what they're making and having them answer certain stuff, especially the visual. I don't think the visual part is super necessary because you can just get your art and then just boom, there's your art. Yeah, so like choose your character description, just kind of fill in that. But when we get into answering background questions, this stuff is super, super helpful to really kind of get you engaged with the other players at the table, to kind of really figure out how everybody is pretty much connected. Even personally, when we've played 5e and a lot of our games, a lot of us are bringing in new characters or just kind of like we're forming the group. So we spend a lot of session 1 to kind of figure out, okay, how does the group get together and do the adventure? And even in like even when I've DM'd, I tried to avoid it, but still, when you have a lot of characters, like, okay, even if half the table knows each other, the other half has to get together with them, and you spend a lot of time. These sort of questions and stuff kind of just help answer those, so you just create connections is what I'm talking about here. And even answered backgrounds, you can kind of weave that stuff into there. Who taught you to fight and why did you stay behind? And in terms of like answering background questions, it really starts to force the player to really think about the kind of character they are trying to make. While 5e has the ideals, the bonds, and the flaws, for me personally, having just a bunch of questions here and then answering them gives me a better idea how to get into this character more than, yeah, this character is kind of like this attitude and this thing, and they're connected to this thing, and but they're this flaw. They have this one specific flaw. As a player, sometimes it's hard for me to role play that at times because I'm not connected to those ideas. And then if you have me in a question form, I'm like, I can really think out and be like, yeah, who taught my character how to fight? And I can really just like think about the background and think about what they're supposed to do. And it helps me form the attitude that they're supposed to be and what the kind of person they're going to be. So yeah, so we have who taught your character to fight and why did they stay behind when you left home? Um, Somebody defeated you in a battle years ago and left you to die. Who was it, and why did they feel like such a betrayal? What legendary place have you always wanted to visit, and why is it so special? Okay. The cool thing is, like, even though they kind of have these base options, I think as a play group, you don't necessarily have to follow these options. These are kind of suggestions. And if you want like questions tailored to your campaign, this is kind of like the perfect thing to add in there. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Grimson. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this, and hope you get a chance to play Daggerheart also. So yeah, so don't feel like you're beholden to this. I think this is as a base option. These questions are really helpful to kind of get you into the system and also like kind of really get you your character. But if you're going to take this system and use it for your own homebrew campaigns and stuff, I definitely would suggest generating some questions to help get characters into the setting a little bit when it comes to this stuff. So yeah, and then generate experience, enter experience. So yeah, these are kind of just like one word or phrases that you can think of that when it applies to certain things, you call upon that experience and use that. It's very, very interesting. It is much more free form. Let's see, they even give you examples of backgrounds like bodyguard, car and artist, merchant, noble, pirate, scholar, thief, specializations like magical historian, navigator, sharpshooter. These sort of things are going to help you really. It is very freeform, which may not be to the liking of players that really need options kind of dialed in and just want to pick from stuff. And there is maybe some level of like choice paralysis. But also, this is another thing that allows you to create your character in the way you want them to, and allow those options or ideas that you're choosing have an effect on your character. Yeah, it's more, yeah, in terms of background experiences and background questions, more of a way for newer players to start thinking of this kind of stuff. Yeah, most definitely. You start with two experiences, one with +2 modifier, the other with a +1. So what we're gonna do is, uh, um, okay. We're just gonna. Hold on. Peanut butter banana. Okay. Peanut butter banana connoisseur. We'll put that on the +1 to be honest. And then Okay, and I got the high ground. We'll do that. Okay, that's where my +2 will be, and peanut butter and banana connoisseur. So anytime something that has to do with peanut butter or bananas, they'll get a +1 on. And using the high ground will be another thing that they get connection on. Yeah, that's funny. 10 out of 10 strat, yeah. Great connections. And okay, this is the one I was talking about earlier that I thought was the background questions, but this is a cool tool to kind of just get your characters involved with each other. So you really do skip over the idea of you meet in a tavern and a wizard comes and approaches you, a hooded figure comes and approaches you for a job. Kind of get over that and kind of get over the idea that your characters are meeting each other for the first time. This is a way to really get your characters already linked together, so you don't stumble over those first awkward interactions. I really like this approach to starting games now because I play with my buddies more long enough that having to have go through the paces of like your characters just meet. Obviously, like with certain games where that needs to happen to establish a common goal, I'm perfectly fine with it. In a Ravnica campaign that we've played, that's pretty much what we did. But for any other campaign, I'm like, man, it just makes more like it makes sense that we all kind of just know each other already and have been adventuring. Yeah, that's it. So like these kind of questions helpful. I know there's a bunch of stuff out there, tools and other questionnaires that you can pull from to help do this. So you're constantly using the same ones. I'm actually kind of hoping they have that for different characters. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this. Let's go look at our character sheet. I think we're gonna need to put a picture. Inspired hero. Oh, we don't even have a name. Okay, let's select a portrait. Only me. Anyone with the link will do that. Um, can we select it? Okay, let's go select image. Oh man, no. They had. Okay, let's just. Let me see if I can find something really quick. Okay. Uh, okay. While we look at this, we need a name for this. We need a name for this character. Let's see. Let's see. George. Oh, okay. I just googled really quick nicknames for gorillas, and then I saw Harambe. R.I.P. Um, let's see. Um, um, might just go Winton. Um, Punchy Kong. We'll just do that because we are punching people with this. Okay, let me go ahead. Oh, dang it. Okay, give me a sec. Give me a sec. We need to... Give me a sec. We're going to open something really quick. What I'm going to do, I'll post the link in the Discord. People want to see the character, and I'll post it up on... Yeah, I'll post up my link for the character in the Discord. If people want to see that, if you want to go to see the Dungeoneers Pack Discord, there's a link in the description. But yeah, this is pretty much the character sheet. Everything is going to be right here. We'll look at it really quick, and then we're going to jump into some design for a bit after I stop messing around and just upload a character. A character picture. For this. I'm just photoshopping something really quick. And then we're going to have something good. Okay. Here we go. Give me a second. We're cooking right now, guys. You guys can't see this, but we're cooking. Cooking. Okay. Select image. Here we go. Boom. We do not need a zoom. We do not need to rotate. Oh no. Oh, yeah, we're gonna zoom. Boom. Upload image. Bam. Punchy Kong is now alive. We're gonna copy the link. I will post it in the Discord right now. For those that are in there, let's go over the character sheet and see if we can read and exactly interpret what any of this stuff means. Okay, cool. So yeah, we got level 1. We have our stats up here at the top. We got our evasion, our armor. Do we got no armor? Okay, I don't know. Well, I think we have to equip stuff because we definitely do have armor. Where's our equipment? Okay, let's go look at our equipment. A round shield. Boom. Boom. Arcane gauntlets. Boom. Cool. There we go. That should fix that. So we got 7 armor. We got some attacks. We got some arcane gauntlets. We have a round shield we can attack with. Also gives us there. So we got a +7 here. All right. I believe health points are a little... Yeah, here we go. They're all threshold. So we have pretty much 6 health points, right? But depending on the type of how much damage we're dealt determines how much we actually mark on our sheet. So if they hit pretty much a 5, we only take 1 damage. If they hit anything between a 10 and a 15, or pretty much 10 and a 14, we take 2 damage. Anything that's 15 and higher, we'll take 3 damage. We use armor and evasion as ways to kind of mitigate that damage. I want to say it's... Do they have it? Yeah, they tell you armor is defined by 3 details. And that's the cool thing, too. Say you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You can read the tool. Like, one thing about digital tools, that you read the tooltip right here, and it says each time you take damage, you can mark as many armor slots as you'd like to, up to total you have remaining when reducing damage. Once all armor slots were filled, your armor is considered broken, can't be used again until you repair it, either as an action during downtime or at a local armor shop. So you need to sparingly use your armor. But cool thing is that you reduce... What armor does is actually reduce, and it says right here, when you take damage, you can negate some of it or all of it by making one of your armor slots. When we're reducing damage by your armor score. So we can flat out reduce like pretty much a 10 and bring that down to like no damage. Right? So We got a good armor, evasion here. So pretty much just kind of acts as your active AC. So yeah, boom. So I'm assuming, depending on how many armor slots you get, I want to assume base armor slots say at max 3. I'm assuming at higher levels you get more armor slots. So yeah, this is what it is. Everything's kind of built in here. The game doesn't seem hard to play. I'm gonna be honest. You have all your options here. Your main, what would be considered your cards, are here on your character sheet right there. And I believe there is a way to port this out and onto a character sheet. So yeah. Then you have your class options here, and then your race options here. It is very, very light if you actually look at it compared to 5e. I think most of like the denseness of your character stuff is going to be right here at the top. And even then, that doesn't feel bad for me. It's like, okay, yeah, here's my base stats. Here's my AC and my protection. Here's my hit points. I think hit point calculation is going to be like the one thing, and they even have a tooltip for you to kind of help you figure it out, which is sick. It's probably the hardest mechanic to really comprehend, because you only have a set number of hit points, markers, but you don't necessarily have a hit point pool like you would in 5e. And then there's damage thresholds that differ depending on your class, and I believe, does it say how it differs? Yeah, or actually it's based off your class. So that's another thing to really learn and figure out. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You have base abilities that you can add to your stuff. Your ancestry isn't going to add too much mechanical weight to your character. Neither is your background. There's kind of just like one option here, one option there. Your subclass at the time only adds one option. And then your base class adds in whatever options that it offers there. And then you have 2 abilities, which you're going to be able to do. Your equipment. And gold is not even dictated by actual amounts. It's just handfuls, bags, and chests. And hordes. Pronouns and stuff. That's pretty much it. And you can go back and fill this all out. And then they even have, that is neat, a way for them to collect actual data and information. I'm going to say I highly suggest, if you're going to be playtesting this, use DemiPlane, because this will give direct feedback to them, as well as other measures to actually give them feedback. This is really, really sweet. Then a journal entry action. So yeah. And then if you want to collapse, okay. So if you don't need all this stuff at the time, you can just close it, and then you'll have your basic stuff here. But this is clean. I like this. This is a really, really solid tool. I want to know how it looks on mobile, because I think that's also going to be like the main thing. So yeah, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Daggerheart looks, admittedly, it looks interesting. I'm interested to see how my playgroup would enjoy playing this, because it is a little bit more on the narrative side and less on the, I guess, wargaming side that we're used to in 5e. But based off of kind of how we play, that might not necessarily be a bad thing, because a lot of the people in my playgroup are much more narrative focused anyway. So not having as many things to have to worry about in terms of combat might be a boon for us, and we might like this system a bit more. But also sometimes we just want to hit stuff and not really think too much, or not necessarily get into character as much. Not necessarily think, but not get into character so much, just depending on how our week is. So it might be one of those things where, I don't know. It'll be interesting how we play that out. But yeah, I highly suggest going through DemiPlane to kind of go through your character and stuff. There's a lot of tools already built in. If you're struggling to really comprehend how this system is meant to work, having a digital tool set for this is going to be key. I don't think it is, for me, looking through a 400-page playtest document isn't my idea of like doing this. To be honest, there are videos already by Critical Role of them actually playing the system if you want to see it in action. They also have a video that is not too long that goes over the beats of how to play the game. So if you're like me who learns visually and by actively participating in a system, you're those are probably your better tools, as well as using Demiplane instead of just sitting and reading a 400-page chunker. In terms of character expression, there's enough pieces in here that I feel gives you a strong starting point, but a lot of character expression is up to the player to use these starting points to explain what and express and give it a detail what kind of character they're actually playing, versus having a lot of mechanics to help mechanically support those ideas. This might not appeal to players that want a more wargamey or at least a heavily mechanically supported character creation system. I would say something anywhere in between like 5e and Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where especially I would consider Pathfinder 2nd Edition a little bit more on the, not extreme, but on the heavier side of this, where you have a bunch of different options that all play into your character's growth and progression that let you really fine-tune mechanically how your character is being expressed, while 5e has those options too, but not as heavy as Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And then we have Daggerheart, who has enough of that stuff, but is definitely on the lighter side compared to 5e. Like, you have enough options there to be like, yes, I'm this thing, I'm this kind of person, I'm this kind of thing, and I do stuff with these abilities, and I'm from here. You still have that, and similar to 5e, it's just 5e gives you more weight to those choices, and then in comparison, Pathfinder 2nd Edition gives you more choices and weight to those choices. So if you're somebody who likes that, the mechanical weight of your ideas to be in there, you might not like the character creation. But at the same time, if you as a player do not like that your character expression is bound to a mechanic and mechanical weight, and it limits necessarily how you want to express those things, you might like Daggerheart's character creation and expression, because you can say you're this thing and explain it, and you won't feel like there's mechanics holding you back for it. You can, so there. That's the other side of the coin. Is like, yes, you have a lot of freedom of expression that's not going to be, you're not going to make you feel tied down to how it is mechanically expressed in the system. So yeah, that about does it here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to be jumping into some character. We're going to be jumping into the 5e design now for Scourge and talk about those changes. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the Daggerheart character creation process. Definitely something I will come back to after my playgroup kind of tests this out to see if this is like a game we actually enjoy. And so stay tuned for that. I'm hoping either a live stream or video for that too. So again, yeah. So let's switch gears. Let's switch gears really quick. Let me get this all set up. Okay. Let me switch to standing. On my standing desk. I don't want to be standing for far too long. All right, this is where we're at with Scourge. So Scourge is my current 5e class I am currently designing. This is meant to take up the sort of dark warrior with a big two-handed weapon, heavily armored trope that is pretty. It's there in 5e, but it's missing and it's not fully I would say, mechanically supported in the game. You have Dark Paladin subclasses. You have multi-classing with Warlock and Hexblade to kind of fill that role, but there's no. I don't feel like there's a class dedicated to actually doing this. This is the gap that Scourge is meant to fill. Right now, we made some changes based off some testing because I finally got to get my hands and personally play it in my group's 5e a one shot that is turned into a two shot. First big change we're going to do with Strike Fear. Originally, whenever you made an attack once per turn, you can force a creature to make a Wisdom saving throw, and if they fail that, they become frightened. The DC for that was going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. What I found out, since this is the linchpin of your character's pretty much identity, the DC was too low and made it too inconsistent, so that if you have subclass features that actually triggered off of this, your subclass won't do its thing. It'll feel like, you're not really doing much in combat. You're kind of just standing around. So what I decided to do was, well, we need to change. We definitely need to change the DC for this to make it at least happen more often. So this is my proposed idea. My proposed idea is to change the DC for this. So what I plan on doing now is making the DC equal to 10 plus half the damage dealt by your Scourge weapon rounded down. So this is going to be very reminiscent of concentration DC, where it's half the damage dealt to you to maintain your DC. I had to really sit about it because my big concern was, how do I convey striking fear into somebody and forcing them, and which is normally associated with using charisma versus wisdom. Because what I'm finding with in terms of creation with Scourge and how you're building it, there's a lot of it's very dependent on charisma, but you need strength and con to really function as a class. So it becomes a little bit, mad. And I try to actively avoid being able, forcing your character to really do that. Since this ability is such a linchpin, it is your main ability that drives a lot of your functions for your subclasses and pretty much helps you fulfill your tanking role in the party. Having it go off charisma, which will be technically your third stat, because con and strength are going to be your two main ones, it felt, it just didn't feel good when I was playing. So with that said, the best way to convey that was to have it trigger off your attack with your Scourge weapon, so that the damage done. With the damage done, it will determine the scaling of your DC. So your DC is always going to be 10 plus half. So it'll always scale. That is pretty much the only level of tracking I'm really going to have in this class. But luckily enough, shout out to JP up in our Discord. He did the math and calculated the base average on this. As far as we see now, it does not make it broken. The DC is a little bit higher than using your basic charisma, but it doesn't break compared to it doesn't break the averages and make it feel super strong, at least math wise, compared to in comparison to other people that have average DCs at that level. So yeah, so that was originally Scourge was going to need strength, con, and charisma as your main stats. Now we're really changing it so that it doesn't have to be heavy dependent on charisma. And that is something that the Luchador 2 is a little bit heavier in charisma also. Mainly with Strike Fear, I want you to be able, this is your bread and butter feature. You need to be able to pull this off semi-consistently so you feel like you're doing something. That you're actually actively causing an effect to happen in the game and having an impact. Because this is putting frightened condition on a creature is a way to give you a tanking ability. What this does, in a lot of ways, since you're putting frighten on somebody, the creature the creature's ability to attack consistently drops down, meaning they're not going to make as many hits against you or your enemies, so that you're protected, but also your allies are protected. And on top of that, when you pair that with Aura of Dread, boom. Aura of Dread just stops their movement. So now they're kind of just stuck there and they're flailing around. During the playtest, I did find whenever I did hit a fear on an enemy, the thing is, Aura Dread did not feel oppressive, because that was one of the big things I wanted to playtest. Is like, hey, when I drop their movement to 0, does it feel bad? Do I feel like I'm limiting and warping the game around me? The party I had make up to kind of test around this. Luckily, it was like other like tank classes. We had a barbarian, had a fighter, and then we had the Scourge, and then we had an artificer that played backline midline. So me and the barbarian mainly, or the frontliner tanks with the fighter play more of a striker build, right? Where it was all 4 rats, and yeah, that's 4 rats, a rat Scourge, a rat fighter, and then a rat barbarian. But what I found with Scourge, the creatures that are already in your melee range were never going to leave in the first place. So, but it ensures that the frightened condition stays on to mitigate damage, while also keeping creatures that want to stay there. Because that's one of the things with frightened creatures that are frightened under certain conditions, spells mainly, that they're forced to move away. But creatures that are frightened can't actively move towards you. So what I wanted to do is make sure that the frightened creatures that are in melee range kind of just stay there. Especially for if you're going to grant spells and subclass features. That was like my main concern, is to make sure that, hey, if you fear somebody and use a spell that is causing it, then the creature is going to stay there and not be forced to run away. So yeah, so that was like my main thing. So yeah, it didn't feel oppressive. It actively worked, which felt really, really good. And I'm happy because the enemies that want to stay there are going to stay there. They're not going to. Their movement was pretty much 0 already. This would feel more impactful if there wasn't an attack of opportunity in the base combat system of 5e. If there was, I will say, yeah, if there was in the base system of 5e, then if there wasn't an attack of opportunity in the base system of 5e, it would be way more impactful and scarier. And that is something that Pathfinder and Vagabond is also the same thing. There's no like built-in attack of opportunity unless you take feats or your class has access to it, like in Pathfinder 2nd edition. And in Vagabond, you have to have a feat to do it. So yeah, give me a second. I'm just changing some things here. Just changing some stuff in the background. We'll move on to the next stuff that we found for the playtesting, and then pretty much where we need to go to fix some stuff and where we're at with certain subclasses. Probably going to fix up the subclass I'm playing tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. We'll do that today to kind of update it, just so we have sorry, just changing thumbnails and stuff and titles for the current live stream. So we're no longer doing Scourge, or no longer doing Daggerheart stuff. Okay. So where we're at here now, we only play level 3. We're only doing tier 1 right now. In terms of subclasses, right now, the thing I'm calling subclasses are Dark Callings as the header, and then the subclasses will be called Call of the something. I'm kind of think it's gonna be Call Black Order, Curse Bearers, These calls are going to be like calls of these organizations. These dark organizations are calling you to join the ranks, sort of thing. That's kind of like the idea I'm going with. It might not stick, but I'm trying to find a good thing, like good idea for it. So if you guys have suggestions for subclasses, like subclass naming, and let me know because I am completely all ears for it. But yeah, that's where we're at with them. Call of the Infernal Legion, Call of the Curse Bearers, and Call of the Black Order. In terms of Strike Fear's change to how it works, Call of the Black Order or my Black Knight subclass, which is using terror tactics, these terror die that allow you to modify your Strike Fear to hit multiple enemies in an area. That needs to be reworked since the DC now scales off of damage. I have to be conscious of adding additional damage to the base Strike Fear. So this has to completely be rewritten, but the general idea is still going to be the same. That your strike fear is still going to be the base DC for how this works. The extra damage die the extra terror die that modifies the strike fear. That extra damage will be dealt to creatures around the initial target, but that additional damage will not hit the main target, and the DC will be the one that is used for the first target of the strike fear. If you understand what I'm saying there, it's just I have to rewrite this so that it actually functions that way. But that's where we're gonna get at. So Dreadbore, you're gonna be able to gore people in a line. So the main creature you hit with Strike Fear will still get hit, but the additional D8 you use for that will not affect them. It'll damage the person and the two people behind it. And then they will have to make the same DC against the initial Strike Fear DC that was made to hit the first target. Fright Cleave is the same thing. You're hitting another person to the side of to pretty much adjacent to your main target, and they have to make the same DC that the initial target did, and then Wave of Terror is the same way. So we'll see if we can fix it. If not, we will do some reworking and maybe spread some of these ideas out to other subclasses a little bit to give them a little bit more on how they want to spread terror. But I like the idea that this sort of knight, this dark knight, is able to expand on the base Strike Fear and able to use it to do stuff. So this one I'm not going to work on today. I really have to sit down and really think how I need to write this. Curse Bearers is still roughly the same. I think the only thing I'm going to really change on this is maybe change the flavor of the curses. Okay, hold on. Because the only thing I'm going to think for this hold on, I think did it go over here? Okay. Oh, hold on. I wrote this down somewhere else, so I'm just copy and pasting. But I might change how the fears operate here and just have them be based off of actual fictional curses that are found in a lot of media, and you're kind of just like temporarily taking those on. So I might change the flavor of these. That's I'm feeling like I kind of need to, but right now functionally this subclass works. You have these active curses. You have these active curses that you can use to weaponize that give you bonuses, but also hindrances. That's really the basis of this right now. This subclass is probably going to be one of the ones that is already like pretty like there doesn't need to be much else added to it. It just needs to be finalized. But I do want to relook at the type of curses I'm doing to make sure that maybe I can do some narratives and ensure that certain curses from fantasy and fiction are like actually founded there. I may take a look at Ross's Accursed. Ross Leiser, designer for the Accursed class and 5e. You can find that on the DMs Guild. His whole class is based off a pretty much you're playing a character that weaponizes the curse they've been given to become a hero. And a lot of pretty much this all the subclasses are based off curses that are found in fiction. So there's a whole class dedicated to it. It is a really, really clean class. It is awesome. If you're wanting to play a character like that, that's the one I would recommend for you to go check out. This subclass would be pretty much a mini homage to that one. But I'm gonna see, because this is like an homage to Jujutsu Kaisen right now, and I kind of like the effects I have on these curses. But we'll definitely wait and see with how this is gonna really shape up to be. Solo Coin Collector. This is the subclass I was playing. Unfortunately, this one didn't feel too hot. So what I found in playing this is that these triggers right here to activate your soul tokens weren't consistent enough in 5e. So this is kind of like the luchador, quote unquote, subclass of the Scourge in a way that it's actively generating resources as you're playing. The big difference is based off of playback and how like on consistency of this. Luchador, the way it triggers its resources, it's either at the start of the initiative, so you actively already have some, but you're actively replenishing it or getting more on actively doing what you want to do, which is attack, pretty much unarmed striking, grappling, and shoving. Those are all dependent on your strength score. And that's the level of consistency it has. And the Luchador already has a built-in option to practically give you advantage and ensure those things are always being done, which is making sure that you're seen as a size larger. And as long as you're a size larger than, or considered a size larger than a creature you're trying to grapple or shove, you have advantage on that roll. Excuse me. Cool. We don't have any measures like that in the Scourge. With Frighten, Condition, and Strike Fear only working off of like the Charisma based DC, it wasn't consistent enough to give you a soul token. Critically striking a creature and reducing to 0 hit points also didn't feel good, because now you have to actually actively try to go hunt and kill something down, or critting on a creature. And without anything in the class to actively make you crit more, there was a lack of consistency to make it feel like your subclass is actively doing anything. So that is something that I need to figure out how to change, or give it an additional subclass feature that is active. That is going to be something more consistent. We'll get a better name for this. I don't like this, but soul collectors. So yeah, so that's something we got to really look at for this. Grammarly, knock it off, Grammarly. So one suggestion is to do exactly what. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up on the side so I can pull it up for D&D Beyond, so you guys can see. We'll do what Phantom does for their tokens of the departed at 9th level. Is that it's based off of an area of effect. Like you have an aura around you, and then based off of creatures that die within that, you can use your reaction to suck up the soul, right? And then use those tokens to do those things. That's one suggestion that was said to me, and I also was like, yeah, that's probably a direction to go. Another direction I'm considering is you already start with every long rest. You start with a set amount, and in combat, when those things happen, they recharge those things. So at least at the beginning of a day, you have a set amount of soul tokens. Can't call them soul coins, but you have a set amount of soul tokens already after a long rest, and then you just recharge them throughout your day, either frightening, critically hitting, or reducing 0 hit points, so that you can actually be able to do these things immediately, at least in your first combat, and then at later upgrade it so that if you have like 0 soul tokens, you can get like you can start short rest with soul tokens. That's another idea I was considering. But something needs to be done so that this actively has those options in there, so that you feel like you immediately can use those things already. Because other than that, I was feeling like this subclass felt a little dead. But the mechanics of the narratives was like the one I found like, oh man, this is actually seems pretty fun. But I wanted to playtest it to ensure. I wanted to playtest it to see how much or how fast the generation of resources actually happened for this class, because that's another thing. The Scourge only has your basic single attack in the first tier of play, and it only gets an extra. It doesn't get any more attacks after that. Unlike the Luchador, who has the same resource generating mechanic, but they also get a bonus action attack if they grapple that turn. So since you are going to be grappling, you're going to be getting an extra attack, and since you grappled, that generates a lucha die, and then since you're punching again, you get another lucha die. So you're just constantly generating resources. It's a lot faster. This class can't do that. So you can have a pool of soul points based on when you frighten, critically hit, kill creature would be a way to recharge your points. Yeah, so that is one thing we're trying to figure out, because I like the idea of a different take of on like an undead subclass. This idea, when I think of, I gotta look it up. So you guys can see, when I think of like this subclass, where are you at, baby? Where are you at? Okay, we'll go to Theros. I'm thinking of, we'll go to here. That's another one. This is another one. They need more art, man. They need more art. Okay. The heck, man? Okay, let's go here. Art for characters. So you kind of see like the kind of idea I had for inspiration in mind I had for this character. Dang, I got squat. Okay, let's go. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go to regular Theros, original Theros, for some cool stuff. Yeah, we'll go here. It's pretty much their version of zombies and undead for this plane. This is what I originally wanted for as inspiration that really clicked with me. I want to see if I can find one that has coins, but that's the general idea. Is that you're see, here we go, Grim Guardian. This right here. Is Journey to Nyx? I think Athreos is here. Yeah, he is. So you're paying the tithe here for Athreos. Yeah, but like no. Kind of like this. You're the great merchant of Asphodel. And these you're collecting coins, souls of people. That's what you're wanting to do. Yeah, and that's the visuals too. Like whenever I get around to requesting art for this subclass, I want that this gold mask and like their armor might be actually made. Some of it might be made of like these gold coins. Man. YouTube. Okay, like I have I check the stream every so often on my phone just to make sure I feel if you're watching on mobile, I'm apologize. It looks like YouTube is just actively rough on the mobile experience right now for streams. So yeah, but yeah, this is the general like inspiration for these guys. I'll see. Here's another good idea. Boom. I'll see the other coin in his eye right here too, but that guy's like dead. So yeah, Theros, Grim Guardian. Yeah, I came back to play Magic during Innistrad, the original Innistrad. And that was when I played heavily and started playing really competitively, and then we stopped playing, and then I think we sort of came back around the time when was what? War of the Spark, when we started playing Casual Commander again. Yeah, yeah, Grim Guardian's one of them. I want this. Where is his name? Murder King. What's his name? I think he's in this set. He has to be because this is where they had all the champions. Yeah, he has a special card. Here he is. Yeah, Timorat is another one. Timorat is kind of like the inspiration for this character too, like this subclass, a little bit at least visually. But obviously, instead of mask that he's gonna have on, what I want to see is instead of mask, it's gonna be coins. That's what I want for this class visually to look like. So you have a big old bloody sword here, and then you have just a bunch of coins that make up kind of like a chest plate. So yeah. So will you give the subclass to summon the soul to fight them at a higher level? No, I will not. I don't want this class to feel like they are, or the class or any of the subclasses, like to be able to summon pets. I originally had some designs for undead, and especially when I was trying to hone in on the Death Knight idea, and allow them to summon undead. But the more I got into it, in the same way that I don't feel that a full sub, like, or at least a third caster class is worth it for them, you have to, unfortunately, warp their entire identity. Your power budget has to go to those things. And it's a little frustrating. So what I mean by this is, like, if I wanted a pet subclass to function under the Death Knight identity, the character's never going to feel like a full Death Knight because all your power budget is going to go to making sure that the pet works and functions, without allowing you to give them any of them the cool Death Knight other features that a Death Knight would have. Your whole thing would be like, I summon undead or an undead pet, and that's all I do. And the same thing for a third caster dedicated subclass. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Phil. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, you have a good one, my man. Same thing for if you're trying to design a third caster subclass for a class. Making sure that the spellcasting actually works fluidly with the martial takes up so much of your power budget. Most of your features have to go into making sure though the magic system works seamlessly with the martial approach to the subclass and class. And that is super, super frustrating. While it works for some classes like the Eldritch Knight Fighter, and it works for the Blade Singer Wizard, and it works for and it doesn't really work for the Hexblade Warlock. If you're like, I'm honest, it doesn't really work for it. But also the reason and Arcane Trickster Rogue, the reason it works for those is because magic is the identity of that subclass. And for a Scourge, if I were to add a magic system on top of for the subclass, the magic becomes the identity of the subclass instead of allowing me to hit the narrative ideas I want for the subclass that magic can support. And I think in order for me to actually make it so magic can be a thing in the Scourge class and have like a full or at least half caster setup and have support for it, it would need to be in the base class. I think there is some room to explore, like kind of like a dark cleric subclass or dark cleric class that can fulfill the like full caster Death Knight and like Hell Knight sort of thing. If you really want to go that route, I think there is a space for that. But I based off of the narratives and what people expect out of those, being able to play those things, I think you have to be a full caster. And honestly, I think the cleric setup is probably the best bet for that sort of class. At least their scaffolding. That's some things I thought about, like in terms of like developing the Scourge. I like the direction the Scourge has gone with, and it's actually skewing from just being dedicated to like Death Knights and Hell Knights and stuff, and still taking inspiration from those, but still doing it in its own way. It may be something I visit down like later, but not something I'm interested in doing now. Okay. Let's. I'm probably gonna be on for another 30 minutes. Let's see if we can kind of figure this out. Because I want to take a break from like being on my computer. We spent a lot of time on Daggerheart, which is fine. It looks interesting. I'm a bit I'm interested in trying it out. Whenever a hostile creature is frightened, critically 24-hour stream, dude, my wife would kill me to do a 24-hour stream. I think the only way I can get away with it of but just subs and donos were just rolling in. I can get away with a 24-hour stream. Y'all paying the bills, yeah. But nah. Let's see. Whenever a hostile creature is frightened, okay, we need to make this more active. So we need to make this more active. I like what we're trying to do here. It's just it's not doing enough. And not doing enough for what we need it to do, so that we actively have these features active. We have these features feel like we're actually using them immediately when we need to. So I have a couple ideas. One would radically just change how this functions, and it kind of frustrates you. But in order for this subclass to kind of be really be its thing, this is so core to this subclass's survival. Okay, it felt that way because we couldn't trigger off of getting our frighten up. All right, so let me try something. We're gonna write this. Oh, hold on, I know what to do. Okay. I do think a pull of points would help out the subclass. I think. Suggesting. Hold on. Why am I going to suggest? I'm going to edit. A pool of points would help. The problem is the flavor. So mechanically, it will solve an issue, but does it help the narrative? We have a dice pool subclass here. We have a passive active resource system here. We're going to have a soft spellcasting system here. And it's extremely soft. I still need to reach out to make sure it's cool that I use this system. But that's the hell subclass. That's what that's going to be. When a hostile creature in your aura dread takes damage from an attack or spell for the first time on a turn. I'm trying to think. Call of Curse Bears, and then we have the symbiote, right? Yeah, and that's the one thing I'm concerned with too. But it's such a sick idea. It's such a sick. Well, it's not okay. So the only amount of options you're going to pick off of that one is only going to allow you to get spells later in later levels. That's all it's going to do. In terms of the rest of your subclass features, it's just going to be dedicated to like your main subclass. It's just your initial, hey, you get this spells, and then you get these things based off of like what you want off of that, and that's it. It adds a little bit more complication, admittedly, but damn, it's sick. Like it really like that, and the reason I like this is just because now you get to feel like you're a different, and that's my problem with the patron warlock, right? Um, you get to feel like you're a member of one of the legion and one of the layers of hell, or you're a warrior for a specific circle, and that's something because each archdevil is very very different in how they the abilities that they do and the way they act and the way they are and the way they function and the kind of magic they rely on because of the what they represent as an archdevil and how they rule their circle. And that's why I like the idea is like, okay, yeah, you're gonna be powered by this circle from this archdevil, so you're gonna have access to these kind of things. Again, we're just exploring it, but it's a sick idea. Originally, it was gonna be the holy, but I'm kind of unholy zealot subclass, but there's too many domains. Too many domains. The only way I can like pare this down, to be honest, like really shrink it, instead of 9 circles of hell, this is sins. You do 7 sins, but it has to be a modified 7 sin because I'm not putting lust on there. I'm sorry, I'm just not. We're not dealing with that. We're just not dealing with that whole can of worms. I'll put envy or something like else on there, but okay. Trying to think how we want to do this. I'll be on for another 20 minutes. I might be one of those things where I might just call it to walk away from this and just work on it off screen and try to come back next week. Yeah, we'll see because I want to actually sit down and work on it and work on that hell one when I get a chance to. But I really want to fix this one right now. So I'm trying to think, how do we actively want to do that? Okay. Hmm. Okay. Have what you have there would work well as a way to recharge a point if there was a pool of points already. Yeah. Uh, the pool the pool of resources is always going to be equal to your proficiency bonus. That's pretty much where I have it right now. So you're always going to have, at least at third level, you'll have 2 soul tokens. Man, mobile experience on YouTube is like terrible right now. Um, okay, so yeah, you can spend your soul token points on one of the following options. You call upon the uh, Okay, we're gonna try this. You trap the souls of the dead and soul tokens to fuel your martial prowess with undead might. You have a total amount of soul tokens each your proficiency bonus. We'll just paste this here. A soul token is expended when you use it. You regain all your when you finish a long rest. Additionally, soul token. Hit points by you. We'll try this one. There's that way. You trap the souls of the dead and you trap the souls of the dead and soul tokens to fuel your martial prowess with undead might. You have a total amount of soul tokens equal to your proficiency bonus. A soul token expended when you use it, you gain all expended soul tokens when you finish a long rest. Additionally, you can recover an expended soul token whenever a hostile creature is frightened, critically hit, or reduced to 0 hit points by you. You can spend your soul tokens on one of the following options. Boom. There's that. We can try that option. We can see how this operates. Though there are other abilities that are top heavy too, like spellcasting that has to describe all it does. Yeah. Yeah. So we can try this. Oh, I'm just not wild about the flavor of it because you already kind of have like these just undead coins. Which is kind of making me like, okay, whatever, you know. If not, what I can do is next time we go live, we can work on it. I think mechanically, this will work. Flavor-wise, I'm kind of like meh about it. I think I'm gonna call it here though. I need to get up and get away from the computer for a bit. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you guys haven't checked out, there is a video up on the Dwar, the forgotten penguin folk of Spelljammer that are only a monster stat block and not a playable race. I dived into the Dwar and made a playable race stat for you that you can pick up for free. Or if you're a patron, you get a nice PDF that you can use on for a digital play. So you guys can have at it. That is there. Also, the blue video is out also. April, I'll be releasing the Dragon Turtleborn video as long as I can wrap it up and finish. And we'll see how many more of those videos I do. There will still be. My plan is to get Scourge out by summer, to be honest. But yeah, we'll be diving more into other games for a little bit too. Just here in the live stream, we'll do that at least for certain parts. I want to look at building characters in Vagabond next, and a couple and other games that I find interesting. Especially they have digital tools too to help build the game, kind of understand it. Mainly looking at it a perspective of building a character as a player to see what is the level of character expression allowed to happen in the game, and how much actual control of it, and how that going to be explored as in through the character building, but also in the base mechanics of the game. So yeah, well, I want to do more of those. We'll definitely take a look, and we're going to try out some other fun stuff on the channel too. We'll see how it goes. Some more shorts should be coming out too. I have some scripts for shorts written. So yeah. So till then, guys, you guys have a good one. Updates for the Scourge, you can always go to the Discord. There's a link into the Discord below. If you guys have any questions on the Scourge, the Luchador, or any 5e design I have put out, feel free to stop by the Discord. So until then, guys, you guys have a good one and take care. Have a good one.